I chased the campus queen for 5 whole years and finally won her over, only to find out I was just the disposable side character. In 5 years, I hadn't even held her hand before the story's real leading man dropped in and kicked me to the curb. I could only swallow the bitter pill. If I kept clinging to her, my fate would be just as miserable as it was in the original story. I pulled out my phone, about to suggest a breakup, but then I had a second thought. Who was I to be the one to dump her? If I actually said it, I'd be in for a world of trouble if I pissed her off. I might as well wait for Chloe to kick me to the curb. It wouldn't be long anyway, since the leading man was set to make his appearance today. The sky was gloomy, and the streetlights stretched out the 3-figure shadows. Chloe, wanna go play pool tomorrow? Mia asked, turning her head as soon as they stepped out of the lounge. Before the words even settled, Sarah cut in, tomorrow's Saturday. Chloe has to spend time with her boyfriend. Oh right, he asks Chloe out every break, practically glued to her side. Isn't he afraid of being annoying? Mia shook her head, her gaze drifting toward Chloe. Chloe, he didn't hit you up again, did he? It's always either movies or video games. Chloe took a long stride, her posture exuding a certain laziness. She gave Mia a brief glance and casually tossed out a single word, no. Ooh, trying something new. Is he? Where's he taking you instead? Mia turned to ask Sarah. Sarah, any guesses? Sarah completely ignored her, noticing Chloe's sour expression. Are you free on Saturday? A low grunt escaped Chloe's throat. Huh. Mia finally quieted down, still muttering under her breath. He actually didn't ask you out? Sarah and Mia exchanged a look. Sarah was the first to speak. He probably got busy and couldn't ask. We can just go to that new lounge tomorrow. There's a dessert shop across the street too. Chloe remained silent, which they took as a tacit agreement. The group left the alley and went their separate ways home. Pushing open the villa's main door, Chloe didn't even need to look. Besides the cleaning lady who came regularly, the house was empty. She returned to her bedroom without a word, sat on the edge of the bed with her elbows on her knees, and stared intently at her phone screen. Normally, Ethan's long-winded messages would have already flooded her phone. But today, the chat window was completely clean, with no updates on what he had for dinner and no on-time greetings. Chloe was visibly stunned. She locked the screen, a cold smirk playing on her lips, and tossed the phone aside, grabbing her pajamas to take a shower. Her foot had just crossed the bathroom threshold when she stepped back, picked up the phone, and pocketed it. Halfway through her shower, the screen lit up. The caller ID showed Mia. She dried her hands, swiped to answer, and her muffled voice echoed in the bathroom. Hello, Chloe. Mia's voice was filled with panic. I messed up. I hit someone with my car. Her driving skills had always been good. A car accident was a first for her. Chloe immediately gave instructions. Call an ambulance first, then the police. Send me your location. Without waiting for a reply, she hung up, quickly rinsed off the soap, changed her clothes, and rushed out the door. Mason and I had just walked out of the movie theater. The tickets were booked a while ago. I originally wanted to ask Chloe to come, but after realizing I was just a side character, I decided to keep my mouth shut. Ethan, why are you so down today? Mason nudged my arm. What's up? Did you get into a fight with Chloe? I couldn't help but sneer, turning to Mason. She doesn't have the time to argue with me. At most, it's a one-man show where I crawl back and apologize after a couple of days. No way, Ethan, you're giving yourself too much credit. A couple of days? You wouldn't last 2 hours before you'd be running back to appease her. Thanks for the vote of confidence. This movie was originally for her, wasn't it? I nodded with a bitter smile. Girls are all the same. The more you chase, the less they care. Just give her the cold shoulder for a few days and it'll be fine, Mason sighed, looking at the streetlight. That was a script reserved for the leading man. If it were Julian, Chloe would get anxious immediately. Oh, come on. With your looks, you've got the leading man script easy. Mason was still trying to console me. I threw an arm around his neck. A leading man needs more than just a pretty face. He needs that stubborn drive. Then look at me, living by the slacker's code of, if at first you don't succeed, just give up. How does that make me look like a main character? But you're clearly persistent. You've been chasing Chloe for a whole year. Look at you, learning guitar and basketball combined didn't even last a few months. Stop twisting the knife. You're making me sound like a good-for-nothing failure. It was true I never stuck with anything for long. I had tried everything but mastered nothing. Besides breathing and eating, having a secret crush on Chloe was the most long-lasting thing I'd ever done. Ethan, plenty of people in the world feel useless, but you seem to be living pretty well. You're handsome, smart, you won over the ice queen you were crushing on, and your family adores you. I slowly closed my eyes. I've already broken up with Chloe. We stopped in our tracks, and Mason's jaw nearly hit the floor. Did you fall for someone else? Before I could explain, he grabbed me and pointed to the side. Was there a car crash over there? Why are so many people gathered around? I followed his gaze, my eyes piercing through the crowd to a cool-looking motorcycle overturned on the ground. Julian had made his grand entrance. Julian was the son of Fiona's ex-husband. To get back at his mom's new family, he had intentionally crashed into Mia's car. After this accident, he and Chloe would become connected, running into each other everywhere. Within 30 days, Chloe would find me an eyesore and kick me to the curb. Ethan, did you just say you're breaking up with her? Mason was only now processing it. My mind was replaying the entire plot. Everyone thought I had relentlessly pursued her for a year, but no one knew the secret crush had been hidden for 3 years prior. These 4 years had consumed my youth. It wasn't me dumping her. She was destined to abandon me. The moment I looked up, I saw Chloe, dressed all in black, pushing open a car door and stepping out. It was as if a string was pulling her gaze. She lifted her eyes slightly and locked onto the other side of the road with precision. Under the dim yellow streetlight, I just stood there, motionless. Chloe's brow furrowed slightly. She glanced at Mason, finding him familiar but unable to recall his name, assuming he was just one of my friends. Her gaze fell to the road, where my shadow was stretched long and thin. Chloe! Mia ran over in a panic, grabbing Chloe's arm and pulling her away. Mason nudged me with his elbow. What kind of game are you two playing? I craned my neck to look over. The crowd was bustling, but Chloe stood out conspicuously. I told you it's over between us. I just don't want to run into her and make things awkward. I pulled Mason away. Let's get out of here. Mason pulled me back. Hey, your pocket's buzzing. I looked down, pulled out my phone, and my heart skipped a beat. Chloe had actually sent me a message. Whoa, didn't you say you broke up? Why is her contact name still Chloe baby? I shoved Mason away. I haven't gotten around to changing it. I had snatched her phone to change it back then. Thinking about it now, it was pretty shameless. I unlocked my screen, and 2 words popped up in our iMessage chat. Wait for me. You talk about breaking up, but now you're telling her to wait for you? I rolled my eyes. Though I hadn't said it outright, the message was clear. I quickly typed out a reply and sent it, then immediately exited the chat, deleted Chloe baby, changed it back to her full name, unpinned her from the top, and moved her into my regular contacts list. Are you for real? Mason patted my back. You! He swallowed the rest of his words and just patted me firmly. Look on the bright side. There are plenty of great girls out there. The next one will definitely be better. The scent of antiseptic filled the hospital corridor where Chloe and Mia stood side by side. Mia's parents were always away, and she hadn't dared to tell her elderly grandmother about the accident, fearing it would frighten her. Fortunately, Julian only had minor scrapes, and the doctor advised him to stay for observation for a short while. Julian secretly sized up Chloe. The woman had a cold, imposing aura about her. You're a student too, right? Mia's face was etched with guilt. I'm so sorry. I'll cover all the medical bills. Is there anything else you need? Julian retracted his gaze. How long do I have to stay in the hospital? Huh. Mia nodded vigorously. Right, but I'll definitely take full responsibility. Julian's eyes flickered back to Chloe. She had been staring at her phone screen ever since she walked in, and he had no idea whose message she was waiting for. Mia pulled out her phone and suggested, how about I call your parents? I'm just a student. I don't have a lot of money. No need. You can go, Julian said, burying his head low. Mia looked at the boy in the hospital bed. The pale light on his face gave him a fragile look, deepening her sense of guilt. Let me help you contact your family. My dad's long gone. Julian's tone was as cold as ice. Mia's mouth hung open. She understood the feeling of not having parents around, so she silently put her phone away, at a loss for what to do. For the first time, Chloe finally looked up, not even getting a clear view of Julian's face before her phone screen lit up. She quickly looked down to check it. It's too late. I'm heading out. Chloe opened the text box, her finger hovering over the keyboard, but she couldn't bring herself to type a single word. So you don't have anyone else at home? Mia asked, worried sick. My grandfather, Julian answered casually. It's not good to disturb an old man this late, is it? Mia ran a hand through her hair in frustration. She definitely hadn't checked her horoscope today. I can't count on him anyway. He's lying in a hospital room upstairs. Mia was completely dumbfounded. Chloe's gaze swept over again, and Julian looked directly at her. I don't need money. I just need you guys to come take care of me every day. Mia waved her hands frantically. I'm the one who hit you. This has nothing to do with Chloe. She didn't want to drag Chloe into this mess. You just rest up. I'll be here every day this month. With that, she pulled Chloe out of the room. Chloe, I'm so sorry about today. My grandma is home alone, and I absolutely can't let her find out. She just called to check on me, and I had to use you as an excuse. Mia's face was a mask of misery. Hiring a private nurse is too expensive, and the car repairs just wiped out my living expenses. I'll cover the cost. You do my homework for a month. Mia's eyes widened in shock. No way. No one would care if you turned in a blank paper. You can't suffer for my sake. Then you can just stay here and deal with it yourself. Chloe's tone was completely flat. Mia put on a placating smile. Chloe, if I don't go home tonight, my grandma will worry herself sick. You don't like going home anyway, so could you cover the night shift for me? I promise I won't slack off during the day. If you take a month off, your academic advisor will lose his mind, Chloe said, giving her a cool glance. Mia stomped her foot in desperation. The corner of Chloe's mouth twitched. All right, I'll handle it. It just so happens I don't feel like dealing with people at school anyway. Mia was still hesitating when Chloe shoved her away. Get out of here before your grandma starts to worry. Nobody cares whether I go to school or not. Mia thought about it and realized she was right. The advisor knew about the Clark family's special circumstances. Chloe, you're the best. If you ever need anything, just say the word. Chloe rolled her eyes. Just try not to cause me any more trouble. Julian waited for a long time before the door to his room finally opened. It was Chloe. A faint smile touched his lips. His plan had finally succeeded. Have you two figured it out? Julian asked. Chloe sat down on the stool, gave a slight nod, and went back to looking at her phone. Julian glanced at her. Just like the first time he saw her, she was cold and indifferent to everything. Wasn't Fiona trying to win her over? If she and Chloe were together, would Fiona even be able to marry into the Clark family? Would Mr. Clark tolerate it? Is this how you take care of someone? Julian said softly, his gaze shifting to the window. Chloe didn't even look up. I've called a nurse. She'll be here soon to take care of you. If I heard correctly, your friend can't afford it, right? Chloe's voice was low. All you need is to be taken care of. The rest has nothing to do with you. Julian waved his hand. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but these walls are paper thin. I'm hungry. I want to eat. A faint smile appeared in Julian's eyes. Can the nurse be here in 10 minutes? Chloe stood up abruptly. What do you want to eat? Julian shook his phone. Add me as a friend. I'll send you the list. It's long, and I'm afraid you won't remember it all. Chloe suddenly asked, what were you doing out there in the middle of the night? Julian lowered his eyes, knowing she was getting suspicious. I was working a part-time job at the arcade. Chloe nodded. After adding him, Julian said, I've sent it to you. When he looked up again, Chloe was already out the door. Julian's eyes darkened. She was truly a cold person. On Saturday morning, Mia arrived with a basket of fruit. Chloe had already given instructions to the nurse, and when she saw Mia approaching, she pretended not to know her at all. With only the two of them in the room, Mia walked over quickly and handed breakfast to Chloe. Chloe, you must be exhausted. Go home and get some rest. I'll take care of him during the day since it's the weekend. Seeing Chloe didn't move, she asked, is something wrong? Chloe turned off her phone, no longer staring at the chat window. I'm fine. Chloe left with the breakfast. Her mind was unusually clear. She had barely slept last night. It wasn't because of Julian. The nurse had arrived within 2 hours, and she had gotten a hotel room nearby. She had come back at 5 in the morning to keep up appearances, but lying on the large hotel bed, she tossed and turned, her eyes involuntarily drawn to her phone. What on earth is wrong with me? Chloe had never asked for anything, but last night was the first time she had asked me to wait for her. I, who always went along with her, had directly refused. And I didn't send a good night message last night. Chloe was certain that ever since I added her, I had sent good night every single night. After we made it official, it was always followed by a heart emoji. But last night was the first time I hadn't. Sarah called. Where are you now? I'll go ahead and set up a station for you. Remembering the new lounge they had talked about last night, Chloe replied with a quick, and then hung up. In a private room at the dessert shop, Mason and the others were gathered around a table with tablets and books. Ethan, you're no fun anymore. How long has it been since you asked us to hang out? My sister brought over some pastries. These are new. Help me taste test them. Mason squinted with a smile. They look delicious. Let me take a picture first. My sister ruffled my hair. Look at you, Mr. Busy. You finally decided to grace my little shop with your presence. I had kept my relationship with Chloe a secret from my family. In the past, when I didn't come to my sister's shop, I'd make up an excuse about studying somewhere else. She thought her baking wasn't good enough to keep customers, so she went crazy developing new recipes, just hoping I'd visit more often. I took a sip of my grapefruit slushie and teased my sister with a smile. I was blind before. Now I realize my sister's baking is the best, and the key part is that it's free. As the owner of the shop, my sister had 3 employees and usually didn't have to do any of the work herself. But whenever I came, she would always cook for me personally. Well, free stuff from family can never compete with what you get elsewhere. My sister sighed dramatically, then turned to me with a serious look. I'm going to the back to work on some designs. Order whatever you want, just put it all on my tab. I obediently replied, got it, sis. As soon as my sister turned to leave, Mason gave me a hard nudge. Ethan, look, isn't that Chloe outside? The moment Chloe appeared outside the window, everyone who had been engrossed in their pastries looked up. We had all been in the same class in high school, and Chloe was always a big deal. Not only did they know her, but they also knew we were dating. Ethan, what's up with you today? Why aren't you with her? Noah asked from the side. Liam nudged Noah and deliberately lowered his voice. You can't forget your friends just because you're in a relationship. Ethan finally scheduled a get-together, so don't be a buzzkill. Liam had a choppy haircut and a sunny disposition. We lived in the same neighborhood, the same building, and were in the same class, so we naturally became good friends. Noah was the neighbor's kid. He supervised my studies plenty of times during winter and summer breaks. Leo was close with him, and the few of us got into the honors class at Northwood High on our own merit, and later all got into Crestwood University. We had all become a tight-knit group not long after the semester started. We used to get together every weekend, but ever since I started dating her, I spent every weekend clinging to her and rarely hung out with everyone else. Chloe and I broke up. From now on, let's go back to hanging out on weekends like we used to. Leo's mouth fell open in surprise. You guys actually broke up? You weren't even together that long, were you? Noah pushed up his glasses, his tone calm. It's good that you broke up. I told you before, she's too cold and indifferent to everyone. She's not right for you at all. I squeezed the pen in my hand and retorted, we may have broken up, but it wasn't because of that. Her personality isn't that bad. It's not a big deal. Liking someone who's aloof is a personal preference, just like how Liam loves spicy chips, Mason loves Coke, Leo loves potato chips, and you love plain water. You can't judge people based on that. Liam, who was in the middle of eating spicy chips, lowered his head and muttered, did you have to call me out? Mason squeezed his soda can. Carbonated drinks are pretty good. Leo stopped chewing his chips and spoke up for Noah. Noah doesn't just like plain water, he thinks it's healthier. And look at you being so defensive. Does that look like someone who's ready to break up? Noah had hit the nail on the head, pointing out that I was still defending her. We really did break up. It has nothing to do with her character. I just don't like her anymore. After hearing that, everyone lowered their heads and fell silent. After a while of quietly doing homework, Noah suddenly stood up, turned to me and said seriously, come outside with me for a second. Mason and the others looked at each other. I put down my pen, grabbed a melting slushie, and followed Noah out. The light in the lounge was dim. Chloe played a game, and even though she won, she felt restless, her eyes constantly drifting to her phone. Chloe, want something to eat? I can go grab something from next door, Sarah said, noticing her distraction. Chloe stood up with her phone. You guys keep playing. I'm going out to buy something. With that, she walked out of the lounge. The bright sunlight outside was almost blinding. She noticed a dessert shop nearby called Sweet Spot, and the name felt familiar, perhaps because it had the word sweet in it. She walked quickly into the shop. Do you guys deliver? We do, but there's a delivery fee. Chloe nodded and gave an address. 1 mango milk crepe and 1 blueberry basque cheesecake, delivered to this address. She then bought a few more things to go and left Sweet Spot. The moment she stepped outside, she saw a familiar figure. Neat short hair, a light yellow casual shirt, and a white baseball cap. A girl stood in front of me, wearing a clean white shirt. She was tall, her brows were furrowed, and they were talking in low voices. I obediently lowered my head and drank my drink. Ethan, are you even listening? Noah had known me since we were kids, and I always listened to him. To get into Crestwood, I pestered him for tutoring every day. I patted his shoulder. Of course I'm listening. When I first decided to chase Chloe, you were the first person I told. You said she was a bit cold, and I went to find out more. What you saw was a misunderstanding. She's distant with people because, Ethan, I don't care about the reason. Being cold-hearted is just wrong. What are you going to do if she bullies you? I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that. Noah, don't worry. She won't bully me. Anyway, you're broken up now, so don't have any more contact with her. Noah patted my head. Your sister told me to keep an eye on you and not let you date before you're 30. I hadn't told my sister about Chloe. If she found out, I probably wouldn't be getting any more free cake. I handed him an unopened drink and patted his shoulder. Then you better eat and drink up. Enjoy this lifetime's worth in advance. Chloe watched me hand over the drink, which Noah accepted naturally, and the two of us chatted and laughed. Chloe abruptly looked away. The bright smiles on our faces seemed particularly glaring at that moment. Chloe remembered Mia's words. I know that Ethan guy. I ran into him at an extracurricular class once. He quit after just a few days. He has the attention span of a goldfish. Sarah had chimed in at the time. Then you don't have to worry. He's clinging to you now, but he'll probably give up after a while. After that, every time they saw me looking for her, they would tease. Here comes your 3-minute wonder again. Chloe never would have imagined that the 3-minute wonder me would end up chasing her for a whole year. In the bright hospital room, Mia finished her handover and left, with Chloe arriving to take over the caregiving duties. Julian keenly sensed that, compared to her coldness yesterday, her mood today was extremely foul. Chloe, did you just break up with someone? Julian asked half-jokingly. Chloe's fingers froze instantly, and she subconsciously retorted, how on earth did you know? You're from Crestwood University and you're pretty well known, so of course I've heard of you. Julian, dressed in a hospital gown, had a sparkle in his eyes, looking fresh and charming. However, Chloe's mood at that moment was utterly foul. Few people ever interrupted her, and moreover, the word breakup had deeply stung her heart. We didn't break up, Chloe said, a rare extra sentence from her. Julian had thought it would be different. He knew Chloe's relationships lasted from a few days to a few months, mostly ending because the guy was too clingy. He had seen me pestering her and was convinced we wouldn't last, 2 months at most. In Julian's eyes, I was nothing special to Chloe. Her current state was probably just a result of being annoyed by my clinginess. Chloe had come for the handover and was ready to leave as soon as the nurse arrived. Julian lay in his hospital bed, watching her curled up on the sofa, playing on her phone. Chloe played a few rounds of a game, but her mind was already elsewhere. Matches she usually won easily, she lost several times in a row today. Annoyed, Chloe quit the game, her gaze falling on her social media app. Julian stared at her unabashedly, watching as she gazed intently at her phone, her long fingers hovering over the screen for a long time without moving. Are you feeling bored right now? A voice suddenly broke the silence in the room. Chloe's fingertip trembled, and she accidentally opened the app. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she glanced up at him. It was unclear whether she was annoyed at being disturbed or unwilling to face the empty chat window. "I play that game too. Want to team up?" Julian said, waving his phone with a gentle smile on his face. The image of me laughing with someone else outside the shop flashed through Chloe's mind. A weight settled on her chest, and her mood grew heavier. "Just go find a random match," she replied coldly. Julian was slightly taken aback, not understanding how he had offended her, but he didn't show any embarrassment and instead teased her openly. "Chloe, I'm really curious. How does someone with a personality like yours manage to get a boyfriend?" Before Chloe could respond, the nurse pushed the door open and came in. Julian watched as Chloe, looking like she didn't want to stay a second longer, grabbed her phone and strode out. Chloe was very tall. The nurse standing next to her only reached her shoulder. Julian thought to himself that Chloe was still a stranger to him, but he had a month. After she broke up with me, his chance would naturally come. Chloe returned to her hotel room across the street and stood alone by the bright window, proactively opening her chat with me. Her fingers flew across the screen, first typing, "Are you mad at me?" then quickly deleting it, unable to figure out what she had done to upset me. Next, she typed, "Why didn't you say goodnight?" but after a moment's thought, deleted that too, worried she would seem too invested. Finally, she typed, "What are you doing?" and before she could hit delete, she turned off the screen, threw the phone onto the bed, and walked into the bathroom with her pajamas. After playing until I was tired, I washed up and lay in bed, wanting to sleep early. But seeing my phone still had plenty of battery, my sleepiness vanished. It was vacation anyway, and I had no classes tomorrow, so playing a little longer wouldn't hurt. I unplugged my phone and opened my messaging app. After a quick browse, I saw that besides some meme wars in group chats, Chloe's pinned chat was silent. I accidentally tapped into our chat and sent a sleeping emoji by mistake. By the time I realized it, the message could no longer be retracted. I slammed my head into the pillow in frustration and searched online to see if I could force retract it, but of course, I found nothing. Chloe came out of the bathroom with a white towel draped around her neck, her skin flushed a faint pink. She habitually picked up her phone, her gaze sweeping over it casually, and then she froze. A water droplet fell onto her eyelashes, and she snapped back to reality, unconsciously pursing her lips as the corners of her eyes curved up slightly. She clutched the phone with both hands, staring down at it in deep thought for a long time, but she didn't reply. The landscaping in my neighborhood was excellent. Lush green plants swayed outside my window, and the chirping of insects filled the night air. Listening to the sounds from outside, my mood gradually calmed. I threw off the covers, felt my forehead, and found it covered in a fine layer of sweat. I picked up my phone and lowered the AC temperature. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Chloe. I swallowed nervously, marveling to myself. She usually ignored me, but today she had actually replied for the first time in ages. Suppressing my inner turmoil, I opened our chat and saw her message, "I will." I shook my head helplessly, thinking that even if Chloe replied, it was just a perfunctory response. To avoid any future awkwardness, I decisively deleted her as a friend. She never initiated messages anyway, so she would probably never even notice. After deleting her, I plugged my phone in to charge and went straight to sleep. On the other side of the city, Chloe stood alone on her balcony, the cool night breeze on her face, eagerly awaiting my reply. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was from Mia. "Are you free to hang out tomorrow?" Chloe stared at the message, her mind flooded with images of me pestering her on past weekends. I hadn't asked her out on Saturday, perhaps because I had plans with friends, but what about Sunday? Chloe didn't reply right away, watching the time on her phone tick past midnight. She took a deep breath of the cold air, gripped her phone tightly, and walked stiffly back into her room. On Sunday, I spent the day eating, drinking, and having fun with my friends. We even went to a movie that night, completely putting Chloe out of my mind. I got back to my room at 10 o'clock sharp. On my phone was a promotional video of the movie's lead actress sent by Liam, with his comment attached, "Bella is so cool. The tension is off the charts." I casually clicked on it and was surprised to find the actress was indeed captivating. She had a sharp, clean-cut face, wore a sleek sports tank top that revealed hints of defined abs, stood at a solid 5'9", and was highly educated. I watched the whole video without realizing it, and it automatically switched to the next one. The more I watched, the more fascinated I became, and I couldn't help but exclaim, how can someone be so beautiful, with such a great body, a kind and gentle personality, and be a top student on top of it all? She looks cool but is actually adorable, and she even likes to bite her straw. After watching the video my friend sent, I searched for more content online and lost track of time until the early hours of the morning. When I finally snapped out of it, I was filled with regret, thinking I shouldn't have clicked on that recommendation. I had an 8 a.m. class tomorrow. Monday morning arrived, and my first class was a major specific course. Chloe and I were not only in the same department but also in the same class. In the past, I would always wait for her at the door, and wherever Chloe sat, I would follow closely. But today was different. I naturally sat with my friends, with Noah and Leo next to me. I looked to my left and then to my right and couldn't help but remark, we're actually pretty lucky. All 5 of us chose the same major. When you think about it, I'm quite happy. Mason, opening his textbook, chuckled and teased. The way you say that makes it sound like the four of us have a secret crush on you. Give me a break. Don't be so full of yourself. It's just a coincidence. Liam raised his hand to speak. I just genuinely like physics. I couldn't help but pout and turn to look at Noah. Noah looked up and said calmly, you know this, I've always been best at physics. I then looked at Leo next to him, who mumbled through a mouthful of bread. My dad made me choose it. It has nothing to do with me, really. Oh, Ethan, I'm the only one who chose it for you, Mason said, slapping my arm and winking repeatedly. Oh, please, you chose it for your celebrity crush, I retorted with a merciless laugh. Mason had been a huge fan since middle school and chose the physics department just to be at the same university as her. Unfortunately, right after he got in, his idol had a scandal and retired from the entertainment industry. No, I'm not. That cheater is not my idol anymore. My new idol is Bella. Didn't I post it in the group chat yesterday? Mason retorted loudly. As soon as he said that, the other four of us turned to look at him. Leo pointed at the three of us and asked, you guys have a group chat without us? Who are you bad-mouthing? Noah pressed his hand down. Don't be so childish. Why would they be bad-mouthing anyone? I smiled and assured them, we definitely weren't talking bad about you. Noah didn't seem to care. He turned to me and said, it's fine, we already knew. Leo's just looking for trouble. I shrugged nonchalantly and playfully punched his shoulder. Thanks for letting me off the hook, boss. We were sitting near the front of the classroom, completely unaware of the pairs of eyes staring at us from the back. Chloe, look up front. He didn't even bring you breakfast today. Mia stared at the seats ahead, not yet noticing Chloe's darkening expression. He didn't wait for you at the door and just sat with other people. Mia pointed at Noah. There's a girl to his right. No, wait, two girls. Sarah coughed awkwardly, glanced at Chloe's unhappy face, and quickly tried to explain on my behalf. Aren't there guys on his left too? They're all good friends who hang out together. It's normal for them to sit together. But look at him. Look at how he's smiling. I've never seen him like that with Chloe. His eyes are all squinted up, he's showing all his teeth, and he's even patting that girl's shoulder. Mia said, refusing to let it go. Sarah lowered her head in exasperation, silently observing the unreasonable girl. He's not patting her shoulder, he's playfully punching it. Besides, is it the same? You act differently with a boyfriend than with friends. You have to be more reserved in front of your girlfriend. Mia patted her shoulder. Chloe, why don't you send him a message? Just ask him. Before, whether you had an 8 a.m. class or not, he would bring you breakfast every day, and he'd always sit with you in large lectures. Chloe slowly raised her eyes, her gaze cold and fixed. Mia, can you please shut up? Mia glanced at her and reluctantly closed her mouth. Chloe looked down at her phone, opened our chat, and saw the conversation was still on last night's message. I hadn't sent a good morning for 3 days, but if I was really mad, what was with the good night emoji from last night? Chloe gripped her pen tightly and tapped it on the desk, making a sharp, crisp sound. Mia knew she was genuinely angry now. Sarah opened her own phone, pulled up her chat with me, and pushed it in front of Chloe. Why don't you use mine to ask him? Previously, in my quest to understand Chloe, I had added all of her friends. Chloe stared at my profile picture for a long time without making a move. Mia sighed in frustration. What are you hesitating for? Should I just ask for you? She took the phone and started typing. Why aren't you with Chloe today? After typing, she showed it to her. Is it okay to send this? Sarah leaned over to look. I think that works. Seeing no objection from Chloe, Mia took it as a yes. Just as she was about to hit send, Chloe snatched the phone away. Mia saw the typed words. How have you been lately? Before she could stop her, Chloe had already sent the message. Sarah was stunned and couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Chloe, you're setting me up, using my account to ask that makes it seem like I'm the one who cares about him. I was listening intently to the lecture when my phone suddenly vibrated. I glanced at it under the desk and saw it was a message from Sarah. She hadn't messaged me in ages. I opened it, feeling completely baffled. Why was she suddenly asking about me? Is something wrong? Noah asked, looking down at me. Sarah sent me a message. Mason leaned over, full of gossip. Isn't she Chloe's friend? Why is she messaging you all of a sudden? Hearing Chloe's name, Noah pushed a book in front of me. Focus on the lecture. I was used to him nagging me about my studies. I casually replied, it's nothing, and turned off my phone. As soon as the message was sent, Mia kept a close watch on the front. Seeing Noah's action, she paused. What's that girl's problem? What does this have to do with her? Does she not want Ethan to reply to you? Sarah shook her head helplessly. How would I know? Chloe stared at the 3 words, remained silent for a good while, then turned off the phone and handed it back to Sarah. Just as they were about to say something, Chloe tapped her pen on the desk. Quiet, listen to the lecture. During the 10-minute break between classes, I wanted to catch a nap at my desk, but Mason and the others dragged me out into the hallway. My eyes were half closed with sleepiness. I don't need to use the restroom. Mason pushed Liam and me along. I know you don't. I was pulled to the end of the hallway, next to an open window. I leaned lazily against the wall, the warm sun shining on me, making me feel cozy all over. I've always been sensitive to the cold, and the classroom AC was set too low. The sun felt warm and comfortable. I slid down the wall, leaned against the corner, squatted down, and dozed off. A few minutes felt like 2 hours of sleep. Chloe, what are you doing out here? Mia asked, clutching a piece of paper, thinking Chloe was heading to the restroom, but she stopped at the door. Just getting some air. Chloe held a bottle of water, her other hand about to twist the cap as her gaze drifted toward the window. Mia followed her gaze. Chloe, there are guys over there. You shouldn't be staring. Class starts in 3 minutes. The words had barely left her mouth when Mia disappeared. Chloe strode over to me, casting a large shadow over me. I had already sensed someone was there and thought it was Mason and the others. I shuffled a bit, rubbed my eyes, and stood up. I was up until 3 watching videos last night. I'm so tired right now. I'm going to sleep in the back next class, I said, rubbing my eyes as I stood up. The person in front of me was incredibly tall, wearing a black short-sleeve t-shirt. Before I even lowered my hand, I knew it wasn't Mason or Liam. I instinctively shifted to the side. What are you doing here? As soon as I spoke, I noticed the water bottle in her hand. If this were the past, I would have started nagging her, telling her to drink less ice water because it's bad for her stomach. Chloe gently handed me a tissue. I didn't react at first, but then I touched my forehead and realized I was sweating. I took the tissue and wiped my brow. Chloe had just started to say something when I saw Mason and the others come out. I immediately waved and shouted, "I'm over here!" Chloe looked down, observing me. She had clearly seen me, seen the ice water in her hand, but I hadn't said a word, not a single extra word, not even a glance in her direction. I turned and looked down the hallway, and I was already heading back to the classroom with my friends. Mia rushed out of the restroom, saw the water in Chloe's hand, and scratched her head. "Chloe, weren't you just getting some air?" Chloe took a cold step back, said nothing, and walked toward the classroom. "Ethan, why are you ignoring me? I'm so hurt." Mason and Liam grabbed me, asking in unison, "What's going on with you and Chloe?" I looked from left to right. What could be going on? I was just a little sweaty, and she gave me a tissue. The 3 of us were back in our seats, and Noah had overheard. He pointed to my jacket pocket. "You actually have tissues in your pocket." I froze for a second. I didn't put any tissues in there. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a neatly folded tissue. "When did this get here?" "While you were dozing off in class," Noah said nonchalantly. I nodded, sat down and said, "Right, thanks. If I had known, I wouldn't have taken hers." "I told you so," Noah said, staring at me quietly. I was just groggy from sleep. I quickly put my hands together, made a crying face at him, and expressed my apology. "Achoo!" Mia rubbed her nose forcefully. "Why is it suddenly so cold?" She glanced at the seats in front of her. Chloe's gaze was glued to me like superglue. Mia leaned back, exchanging a look with Sarah across the seats. Sarah twirled her pen and moved a little closer to Chloe. "Chloe, don't worry, he definitely still has you in his heart." Sarah's tone was so serious that it made Chloe look at her, with an expression that said, "You're not leaving until you explain yourself." "Look, let me break it down for you. Ethan usually wears bright colors, yellow, pink, blue, or just clean white," Sarah continued. "And let me just say, I wasn't intentionally. Look at what he's wearing today." Chloe didn't need to look. She had been staring at me all day. Sarah was about to answer her own question, but Mia beat her to it. Mia whispered, "He's wearing black today, and you're wearing black too, Chloe. It's totally a couple's outfit. He must have done it on purpose. He still likes you." Chloe's tightly pressed lips relaxed, and she took a serious look at my clothes. "Chloe, I thought you were just playing around. Why are you suddenly so concerned?" Mia asked, puzzled by the improvement in Chloe's expression. Sarah replied faintly, "This guy's got some clever moves." Mia quickly asked, "How so?" "I think he's intentionally giving her the cold shoulder to make Chloe pay more attention to him." Mia's mind was only on games, studying, and sleeping. She didn't get all the complicated stuff. She just let out a huh and dropped the subject. Chloe picked up her phone, opened the browser, and typed Bella Thorne into the search bar. Mia was copying notes from the blackboard and, seeing Chloe hadn't looked up, curiously leaned over for a peek. "Chloe, when did you get into following celebrities? And you're following Bella Thorne?" Chloe turned off her phone screen, uncapped her pen to start on a problem, and looked at her book. "You know her?" Mia clicked her tongue. "That's the top-tier Bella Thorne. All the guys in our class are obsessed with her. She has tens of millions of fans online. You can't even see her on the street. She's always mobbed by fans, with screaming everywhere." Chloe's pen paused for a moment. She didn't say anything, just gave a non-committal and went back to solving the problem. "Wait a minute, how are you already on this page? There's one thing that you're smarter than me, but you're also working harder. Can you give a slacker a break?" Mia glanced at her own progress, which was barely halfway to Chloe's. "Chloe, I have to go to the hospital to see Julian after class. You pay attention, and let me copy your notes. Just take them. I'm not going to the next class." Mia's eyes widened. "You finished the elective material ahead of time too? You're terrifying. I'm requesting a new desk partner. Couldn't sleep last night, so I just did it," Chloe said lazily. Last night, she had sent me a message and thought I might reply, but after a few hours of gaming got boring, she had picked up a book instead. After this class, I was done for the day. I was just about to go buy snacks with Mason and the others when someone suddenly stood in front of me, blocking my way. I looked up. He was a bit shorter with bright, clear eyes. My first thought and my third was just one thing: first love. He was the absolute picture of a first love. The label seemed tailor-made for him, popping into my head the moment I saw him. Mason and Liam were standing nearby, and I was sure they were thinking the same thing. The three of us were already silently planning how to praise this handsome, first love template guy in our group chat later, definitely starting with a row of exclamation points. Hi, excuse me. I'm looking for Chloe Clark. Do you know her? The three of us froze instantly. Noah and Leo walked up from behind, and Noah handed me a cup. You forgot your water bottle. My mind was still wandering, thinking about this handsome first love guy, and I didn't react right away. Take the bottle. Noah calmly looped the bottle strap around my neck and then reached out to adjust the brim of my hat. This was the scene Chloe saw when she came out. Sunlight streamed through the glass, bathing us in light. Noah, tall and dressed in white, blocked the harsh glare from my eyes. He carefully hung the water bottle for me and thoughtfully adjusted my hat. After he finished, I turned back and smiled at him, the outline of my hair seeming to glow with a golden edge. Even with the sun blocked, I stood there casually, still looking incredibly radiant. The scene was as beautiful as a painting. Julian walked past me and slowly approached Chloe, a gentle smile on his face, but his eyes held a hint of helplessness. Chloe, I need to talk to you. Julian's voice was soft, unlike mine whenever I talked to Chloe, always excited and agitated. Liam tugged at the corner of my shirt. I turned away from them and left with Noah and Mason. Chloe watched my retreating back until I disappeared around the corner of the hallway. Mia looked at Julian in front of her. What are you doing here? Why aren't you resting in the hospital? Can you even walk on that leg? Julian shifted slightly. It's fine. It's just a small injury. I can still manage to walk. Seeing him like this, Mia felt even more guilty. Do you have something urgent at school? Let me help you over to her. Julian shook his head gently. No, really, it's fine. I just have something to talk to Chloe about. Mia froze for a moment, looking at Julian beside her, then at Chloe ahead. Can't you just say it over the phone? Chloe walked out of the doorway and leaned casually against the wall, her deep eyes slightly lowered. Below was my figure, just having walked out. I hadn't gone far before Noah took an umbrella out of his bag and naturally opened it for me. Julian, if you have something to say, just tell me. She's not in a good mood today, Mia said, blocking Julian from moving forward. Julian nodded lightly and took a small step back. This is something I can only tell her alone. Can you give us a moment? Sarah, who had been following behind on her phone, heard Julian and said, even if you go straight to her, she won't pay any attention to you. Sarah glanced at Mia and shook her phone. Chloe said we don't have to wait for her. We can go ahead. Mia glanced at Julian's injured leg. Are you sure you don't need me to take you back to the hospital? Julian stubbornly insisted. No need, keeping his head down, unwilling to talk further. Seeing this, Mia was at a loss. All right then, be careful. If anything else happens to you, it'll be on my head. Julian looked away, avoiding her gaze. Mia left with Sarah. Chloe leaned on the windowsill, watching the figures below grow smaller in the distance, the motion of her fiddling with a lighter coming to a halt. Julian slowly walked towards her. Seeing her gaze fixed on the scene below, he spoke tactfully. Chloe didn't turn around. At first, her eyes were filled with annoyance, which now morphed into impatience. She watched me shrink into a black dot and said in a low, cold tone, if you have something to say it quickly. This isn't really the place to talk, is it? Julian glanced at the nearby restroom. Then get away from me, Chloe said, straightening up, her gaze fixed on him, devoid of any emotion. Julian knew she had a bad temper. Before, in his presence, she was just cold and aloof, but her underlying upbringing wasn't poor. This was the first time he had heard such harsh words as get away from me from her. Do you not understand English? Chloe crossed her arms and started to walk past Julian, ready to leave. If you don't hear me out today, you'll definitely regret it later. Chloe stopped walking. Who doesn't have regrets in life? Julian took a few quick steps forward. Wouldn't it be better to have one less thing to regret? Whether it's good or not is my business. Do as you please. After saying this, Chloe didn't even glance at Julian and walked straight downstairs. Julian watched her back as she went downstairs. Today, she wasn't glued to her phone, but it allowed him to see her cold-hearted nature clearly. This trip wasn't a total loss. She was indeed exceptionally difficult to deal with. For several days in a row, I didn't send Chloe any messages. Then, when school was out for a break, I was about to head home with my backpack on. The moment I opened the door to my rental apartment, I saw Chloe standing in the hallway. Her tall figure blocked a large patch of light, and she was fiddling with a coin in her hand. How did you know I live here? I had mentioned my rental place to her before, but I never thought she would actually remember, since she never cared about such trivial things. Ethan. Chloe stood up straight, looking down at me in my clean shirt. I was dressed quite freshly today, with a neat haircut. Her gaze slowly moved up, noting my bare wrists. I wasn't wearing any accessories, not even the watch she had given me. Could you please move? I need to go home, I said coldly. Chloe was blocking the entire doorway, making it impossible for me to get out. Are you sure you want to be like this? Chloe took 2 steps back, clearing a path for me in the hallway. I frowned slightly, wanting to tell her, "Don't think so highly of yourself," but then I saw the bag in her other hand and blurted out, "Since when do you like sweets?" Chloe glanced out the window, pulling the hand holding the bag back slightly. "Just changing things up once in a while." I said nothing. Chloe never bought desserts on her own. Oh right, she was with that first love guy now, so it was normal for her to buy sweets for a guy. Whatever. I adjusted the strap of my backpack and slammed the door shut behind me. I looked at the keychain in my hand. It was a Patrick star. I had given her the SpongeBob one, but I'd never seen her use it. But the keychain wasn't the issue right now. I was certain of one thing. I had left my water bottle on the table. I glanced at Chloe standing nearby. Her eyes were on her phone screen, with the same nonchalant expression as always. I really didn't want to see her right now, so much so that I didn't even want to go back for my water bottle. I just turned and headed downstairs. Chloe followed me downstairs, our movements surprisingly in sync. She casually glanced at her phone. It was a location from Mia, asking to go play ball. She followed behind me with her long legs, not looking rushed at all, her strides clearly faster than mine, and she even replied to a group chat message along the way. I went into a small shop downstairs and immediately bought a new keychain, a Shinchan one this time, and put it on my keys right after I came out. Chloe watched as I tossed the Patrick Star keychain into the trash without a second thought. Chloe remembered the SpongeBob charm sitting on her desk at home. She usually didn't need to carry her own keys, so it had just been sitting there collecting dust. After changing the keychain, I looked to the side, and sure enough, Chloe was gone. Seeing me throw away the matching keychain, she must have understood everything. Chloe wasn't the type to go back to an ex. From now on, we would probably have no relationship whatsoever, and no chance of meeting again. I took a deep breath of the cool air, went back upstairs to grab my water bottle, and then finally headed home. Sitting quietly in the subway car, I opened my phone to check my messages and saw one from my mom. She had another night shift tonight, and my dad was out of town on business. She asked if I wanted to stay at my grandma's. I didn't want to be in an empty house alone, so I replied with a simple okay. My grandma's house was just 2 more stops away. It was an old neighborhood with only 2 apartments per floor, and Noah's family lived right across from her. I had just pushed open my grandma's door when I saw Noah coming out with a plate of fruit. I thought I'd walked into the wrong house for a second. "What are you doing at my place?" Grandma had gotten my message that I was coming, so she wasn't surprised to see me. Her wrinkled face was full of smiles. "Ethan's back. Come on in and rest. We'll be eating soon." Noah put the fruit platter on the table, and seeing me walk in with my backpack, he casually speared a piece of mango and held it to my lips. "Nothing special, just came to see Grandma." Grandma watched with a smile as I put down my backpack. I took a big bite of the mango, and she took my empty water bottle and refilled it with warm water for me. "Ethan, when you're not here, it's always Noah who keeps me company." "Really? He keeps you company? Just like I do." I playfully pinched my grandma's cheek. "Grandma, you seem to have lost some weight." "Nonsense. You really have." "Noah, come look, hasn't she lost weight?" The lively atmosphere inside the house drowned out the sound of cars whizzing by on the asphalt road outside. Chloe sat in the back seat with her eyes closed, still clutching the dessert bag. In the driver's seat, Mr. Lee kept glancing at the rearview mirror. After hesitating for a long time, he finally spoke up. "Chloe, I've practically watched you grow up. When you go home this time, please don't fight with Mr. Clark again. Things are different now." Mr. Lee wanted to say that times had changed. There was a new woman in the house now. If Fiona were to have a child, would Mr. Clark still truly care about Chloe, the daughter who was always causing trouble? But seeing Chloe's weary, closed-eyed expression, he couldn't bring himself to say it. "If that woman really gets pregnant, old Clark will just find the next young thing," Chloe scoffed, completely unconcerned. When her mother was pregnant with her, Mr. Clark had openly kept a mistress. Growing up, her father's mistresses came and went, never with a gap of more than 2 months. Fiona thought moving into the Clark house was a big deal, but who knew when Mr. Clark would find someone new outside? Chloe had just walked in with the dessert bag and was changing her shoes in the entryway. "So you finally decided to come home?" a man's angry voice boomed. Chloe acted as if she hadn't heard a thing. Mr. Clark looked at his only daughter, who spent all her time at clubs and racetracks, never looking proper, and only went to school when she felt like it, sometimes not showing up for a month or 2. Last time, she even made the news for street racing, bringing immense shame upon him as a father. Thinking of these frustrations, Mr. Clark's chest tightened with anger. He grabbed the flower arrangement from the table and threw it at Chloe. Chloe didn't even flinch. Her deep, dark eyes stared coldly at her father as the thorny roses hit her, instantly leaving a small cut on her cheek. On her pale, delicate skin, the small cut was particularly noticeable. Chloe didn't even blink, her gaze sweeping coolly over the scattered petals on the floor. Fiona stood up from the sofa, watching the flower arrangement she had made get destroyed. Mr. Clark slammed his hand on the table. "Why didn't you pick cheaper flowers?" Fiona was surprised to be blamed. "I'll remember to trim the thorns next time. Don't be so angry." Fiona quickly stood up, called for a maid to clean up the mess, and began patting Mr. Clark's back, soothing him in a soft voice. Chloe must have her reasons. She's still just a child, after all. What kind of proper reason could she have? She's in college, Is that still considered a child? Chloe didn't even bother changing into slippers, stepping on the flower petals as she started to go upstairs. Fiona's eyes fixed on the bag in her hand. Look, Chloe even bought you something, and you just yelled at her the moment she walked in. Fiona continued to pat Mr. Clark's back. Although she now lived in this grand villa, she wasn't officially married to him yet, and her position in the family was still unstable. Fiona had secretly observed that while Mr. Clark seemed not to care about his daughter and often spoke harshly to her, he actually cared a great deal. Just now, when he threw something in anger, if he had really wanted to hurt her, he could have thrown the glass cup next to him, a weapon that could easily draw blood. But he had chosen the harmless flowers instead. Seeing the small cut on Chloe's face, Mr. Clark himself had become more upset. Chloe held up the dessert bag. I bought this for my boyfriend. Why are you trying to break his heart? Are you trying to give him a heart attack so I can inherit everything? Mr. Clark, who had just been slightly calmed down by Fiona, heard these outrageous words and his facial muscles began to tremble with rage. Get out! Fiona gripped Mr. Clark's wrist tightly, her face full of anxiety as she tried to intervene. Chloe, you're his only daughter. How can you anger your own father like this? Hurry up and apologize to him. Chloe was heading upstairs when she abruptly stopped on the steps. She slowly turned her head, a deeply sarcastic smile on her lips, and looked coldly at the couple before her. The red mark from the thorn near the corner of her eye added a touch of wicked charm to her expression. Who do you think you are? Why don't you worry about the man you stole first? His latest scandal is still trending on Twitter today. Mr. Clark shot up from the sofa, forcefully shaking off Fiona's hand, and rushed to stand in front of Chloe in a few strides. Father and daughter were nearly the same height. Having navigated the business world for so many years, Mr. Clark had always maintained his figure, showing no signs of a middle-aged paunch. The powerful aura he exuded completely overwhelmed Chloe. The cold detachment in Chloe's eyes was like an unseen fire in the night, completely infuriating her father. Chloe seemed to think the fire wasn't burning hot enough. Still lining up to find little starlets? Why not bring them home to join the fun? Mr. Clark forcibly suppressed his anger, his voice dangerously low. Get over here and eat. You still have an appetite? Didn't you get your fill outside? Fiona hurried over. Chloe, your father is just concerned about you. Try not to speak with such a sharp tongue in the future. Chloe fiddled with the string on the bag and said nonchalantly, this is just how I am. If you can't stand it, then don't ask me to come back. I called you back today because there's something to discuss. Sit down. Mr. Clark rubbed his throbbing temples. So you don't blame me for not telling you in advance when they show up. Chloe fell silent for a moment, then gave a contemptuous smirk. She leaned casually against the solid wood banister of the staircase, raised an eyebrow, and gestured for him to get on with it. Fiona looked at the tense father and daughter and stepped between them. Your father and I are planning to get officially married. Humph. Are you expecting me, an outsider, to offer my congratulations? Chloe suddenly felt her stomach churn. The nauseating, convulsive feeling in her chest had become all too familiar. She clutched her chest and hurried towards the main door, but her father's sharp voice stopped her from behind. From now on, your Aunt Fiona's son will be staying over on weekends. You better be polite to him. By the time Mr. Clark finished speaking, Chloe was already gone. She ran outside the villa and dry-heaved into a trash can on the street, but nothing came up. Chloe sank weakly onto a nearby stone bench. Her phone screen lit up in the darkness with a message from her father. She immediately turned it off without a second glance. Her father's actions always managed to disgust her to her core, making her feel as if she too had been tainted. She had always been a free spirit, and the people around her were mostly the same. She had never thought about being a deeply devoted and faithful person. But her father's complete lack of principles, changing mistresses one after another, was something she found utterly repulsive. The fact that Fiona had actually managed to get Mr. Clark to marry her was a real surprise to Chloe. Her mother had been dead for over a decade, and Fiona was the third woman to marry her father. The fact that she could bring her son along showed that Mr. Clark was truly serious about her this time. Chloe didn't know how long she sat in the darkness outside the villa until her phone suddenly buzzed, the screen lighting up, exceptionally bright in the dim night. Her long fingers toyed with the phone as she casually glanced at the screen. The time had just ticked over to midnight. In her message list, there were texts from her father and Mia, but the newest one was, surprisingly, from me. Chloe opened the chat with one hand. Inside, I had sent a series of cute birthday wishes. Happy birthday, Chloe baby. Hope you're happy every day. Chloe stared intently at the kissing emoji as a cascade of birthday effects filled the screen and then slowly faded. She froze, and it took her a long moment to come back to her senses. She held the phone tightly with both hands and solemnly typed out a reply. The phone screen lit up on the pillow beside me, but it didn't disturb my sweet dreams. Early in the morning, Noah arrived at my house with breakfast. Grandma was in the kitchen making pancakes and saw Noah come in. Why did you come all this way to bring breakfast again? We should be the ones taking care of you. Grandma, didn't I say I'd be in charge of breakfast during the break? You should rest. Noah placed the congee on the table and turned to look at my closed bedroom door. Is Ethan still sleeping in? Yes, I don't know what time he went to bed last night. I tell him every day not to stay up late, but he just won't listen. Since he's finally home, I made his favorite pancakes. Grandma, I really didn't stay up all night playing games. I yawned, pushing open my bedroom door, and offered a weak rebuttal before rushing into the bathroom. After using the restroom and washing my face, Noah handed me a face towel. Hurry up and dry your face. It's time for breakfast. I took the towel and haphazardly wiped the water from my face. Dude, I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. At least let me finish getting ready. With that, I turned and went back to my room. Noah knew I was going back to my room to get my phone, so he sat quietly at the dining table and waited for me. Grandma shook her head in exasperation. That silly child, he even has to stare at his phone while brushing his teeth. It's a miracle he's not nearsighted. Noah guiltily pushed up his glasses. Sure enough, Grandma started her usual nagging. Noah, dear, everyone in your family has good eyesight. How come you're the only one wearing glasses? I'm going to die. My scream suddenly echoed from the room. Noah and Grandma were so startled their chopsticks almost fell. They both jumped up and ran over to see what was wrong. Ethan, what happened? What is it? What's wrong? Grandma pushed open the bedroom door, with Noah right behind her. They saw me kneeling by the bed without a care for my image, clutching my phone and repeatedly banging my head against the pillow. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm really dead. Grandma stroked my hair sympathetically. Hush, hush. Don't say such things so early in the morning. I can't face anyone now. I'm completely done for. I stared at the scheduled message on my phone, set 2 weeks ago, and felt a surge of extreme regret. How could I have forgotten to delete Chloe as a friend? Even worse, how could I have forgotten to cancel the scheduled message? Noah leaned over to look at the screen and frowned. So it was a scheduled message. I shoved the phone into Noah's hands and threw my head back, wailing nonsensically. I don't want this stupid phone anymore. You sent that message, not me. Grandma curiously peeked at the chat history and read it out with a smile. Ethan baby says, Happy birthday, Chloe baby. Oh my, you young people are so cheesy these days. Grandma grabbed my hand, her eyes full of gossip. Ethan, have you been dating someone behind my back? Who is this Chloe girl? Noah let out a cold laugh from the side. He sent such a long, cheesy message, and all she replied with was a cold Ethan, thank you, without a single extra word, just a period. I glared at Noah, gritting my teeth as I tried to shift the blame. You're the one who sent it from my phone. I'll just say it was your prank. Do you think she'd believe such a ridiculous story? Grandma chuckled and tried to soothe me. All right, it's not a big deal. It's nothing. Go wash your hands and eat. I hugged my grandma's waist in misery. Grandma, I've completely lost my appetite, but I made meat pancakes especially for you. You have to eat. Chloe returned to her hotel room alone. She hadn't replied to Mia's message last night and figured Mia was probably still at the hospital and knew she had hired a nurse. She felt tired and couldn't be bothered to explain. Her father sent her the location for her birthday party. It was under the guise of celebrating her birthday, but in reality, it was just another boring business function. Chloe lay sprawled on the large bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Her mind was filled with the birthday wishes I had sent, the flashing hearts, cake, and roses, and that final, playful kissing emoji. I really want to kiss her hard. Chloe unconsciously raised her hand, her cool fingertips gently touching her lips. Remembering how I usually acted around her, she licked her dry lips. Suddenly realizing her strange behavior, she shot up from the bed and pressed her lips together tightly. Annoyed, she unlocked her phone, copied the location her father had sent, and broadcasted it to a group chat. The message showed as sent to everyone except for me, where a conspicuous red exclamation mark appeared in the chat window. Chloe immediately took a screenshot and saved it, then quickly opened the messaging app. The chat history was from a few days ago. When she tried to send the screenshot, the system coldly informed her, you must add this person as a friend first. Ha! Chloe clenched her jawline tight, and strode onto the room's balcony. Ethan, she gripped her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her chest heaved with anger. I had actually blocked her completely, and she had just been foolishly staring at her phone, spacing out at the chat window for ages. It was utterly ridiculous. She didn't know how long she stood on the balcony before her father called to rush her. Only then did Chloe realize her clothes were soaked in a cold sweat. She decisively hung up, went to the sink, and splashed her face with cold water until her pale cheeks were red. In the mirror, the small cut on her cheek, now wet, began to ooze a tiny bit of blood. She haphazardly grabbed a tissue to press against the wound as another message from her father popped up on her phone. Chloe flipped the phone face down on the table, took a cold shower to calm down, changed into clean clothes and headed out. Noah looked at the invitation on his phone. Starry Night Restaurant, Moonlight Avenue, New District. You are cordially invited to Chloe Clark's birthday party. I was on the phone, slinging my shoulder bag over my shoulder with my water bottle habitually hanging from my wrist. Hello? Yeah, I got it. It's on Moonlight Avenue, right? Okay, you guys start playing at the court. Noah and I will take the subway and be there soon. After hanging up, I saw Noah still standing there in a daze and urged him, let's go. Why are you still standing there? Go change your shoes. Did you block all of her contact methods? Noah suddenly asked. My hand paused. Yeah. Noah held his phone screen up to me. I looked at Chloe's birthday invitation on it and asked, when did you add her on iMessage? Last time, the academic advisor asked me to contact her about a form, so I just added her from the class group chat. I gave a nonchalant, oh, she probably just mass sent it. Don't worry about it. She's probably realized you blocked her by now, right? So what if she knows? Is she going to come after me for it? I pushed Noah's shoulder. Can we stop talking about her? Let's get going. Liam and the others are waiting at the court. We had planned to play tennis a while ago, and Liam and the others had been waiting at the court for a long time. Noah took my sports bag from me and couldn't help but complain. You always go out with a water bottle and a backpack. You're like a little kid who never grows up. Is it a crime to like drinking water? Thanks for carrying my bag. I was scrolling through pictures of Bella Thorne on my phone. Ah, Bella is just too beautiful. Noah glanced at the screen indifferently and said nothing more. In the banquet hall of the Starry Night restaurant, the lobby was magnificently decorated. The invited guests, dressed in gorgeous gowns and suits, held glasses of red wine and chatted in small groups. The main doors were slowly pushed open from the outside, and Chloe entered, wearing a pure black gown. Though simple in style, it perfectly accentuated her graceful figure. Her pale skin shimmered under the lights, her collarbones were exquisite, and her jawline was elegant yet sharp. Seeing her arrive as expected, Mr. Clark smiled at the middle-aged man beside him and said, "Speak of the devil, we were just talking about her, and here she is." The middle-aged man next to him smiled and raised his glass. The young man beside him grinned, his eyes curving. "Dad, I'm going to go chat with Chloe." Go on, the man nodded indulgently. The two families were well-matched, and if the younger generation could get along or even marry, it would be greatly beneficial for both family businesses. Mr. Clark watched the young man eagerly approach Chloe and couldn't help but remark, "It's always the young ones who have something to talk about." "Chloe," Ryan called out in a clear voice, running over with a light step. Chloe nonchalantly raised her eyes and called out his name faintly. "Ryan." Ryan stood obediently in front of her. Her slightly curled long hair cascaded over her shoulders. Her long eyelashes were slightly lowered, and her narrow, beautiful dark eyes held a distant and indifferent look that kept people at arm's length. She was tall and striking, with a unique aura that others couldn't imitate. Chloe coolly scanned the room and picked up a glass of champagne from a passing waiter's tray. Just as Chloe was about to walk past Ryan, he boldly grabbed her arm. "Hey, your dad specifically asked me to hang out with you. Let's not go bother the adults." Chloe stopped, turned around, and smoothly pulled her arm away, her voice tinged with a cool curiosity. "Hang out how?" The tips of Ryan's ears turned slightly red, and he quickly nodded in agreement. Yeah, we used to play together all the time as kids, right? After this boring party is over, how about we go play tennis at my dad's new court? The court will be too crowded. I don't want to go. Chloe tilted her head back, took a large gulp of champagne, and walked over to a sofa in the corner, placing her half-empty glass casually on the table. "But it's my family's private court. I can just call and have them clear it for us." Chloe didn't even look up, her head bowed as she focused on her phone screen. Mia was frantically messaging her, asking why she had suddenly been invited to a birthday party in a large group chat. Chloe typed with one hand, "Don't come, it's just a bunch of fake, show-off people." Mia replied with a speechless series of dots. Chloe's gaze involuntarily drifted back to the chat window where I had blocked her. The red exclamation mark was still glaringly conspicuous. She glanced at Ryan beside her and asked lazily, "Where's your tennis court?" Ryan immediately straightened up, beaming with joy. "I'll drive you there right now. I'll also have the manager clear the court immediately. It's really close. We can wait in the lounge for about 10 minutes, and then we can play." Chloe nodded lightly, picked up her glass from the table, drained it in one go, and stood up, heading straight for the exit. Ryan, overjoyed, hurried to follow her. Mr. Clark saw the two of them leaving together so soon and was very pleased, saying nothing more. Chloe had just opened the car door and gotten in when Ryan followed her into the back seat. Just then, a message from her father popped up, "Spend more time with Ryan. Get along with him." A wave of inexplicable irritation washed over Chloe, like a sharp thorn lodged in her chest. She had never intended to go play tennis, but for some reason, she had impulsively agreed. "It's just Ethan. So what if he deleted me as a friend? It's not a big deal." Chloe tried to console herself, feeling annoyed. Ryan secretly glanced at Chloe. She was leaning back against the leather seat, her head tilted up, her eyes looking somewhat empty and lost. When they arrived at the parking lot outside the tennis court, Ryan thoughtfully got out first and opened a large sun umbrella. Chloe glanced at the umbrella, then at the court entrance just a few steps away. The image of Noah gently holding an umbrella for me uncontrollably flashed in her mind. She stretched her slightly numb shoulder, got out of the car, and squinted at the glaring sun, her mind filled with a lingering question. Why did he delete me as a friend? Inside the indoor tennis facility, our group hadn't even played a few rounds when a manager came over, full of apologies, to give us a refund. He explained that the court had received a special notice and would be closed to the public for the rest of the day. Leo, who was just getting into the game, held his racket and asked discontentedly, "I haven't even broken a sweat yet. What's going on?" The manager could only bow repeatedly in apology. "I am truly sorry. An emergency situation has come up. We will provide a full refund to everyone. We will also compensate you with some high-value coupons. We hope for your understanding. Noah neatly packed up his racket, patted Leo on the shoulder, and soothed him. Let it go. We can just find another place to play. Mason lowered his head and muttered under his breath. What's with today? This is the second place we've had to leave. The one we usually go to was closed, and we finally found this place, only to get kicked out after a few hits. I shrugged helplessly and joked. Maybe some powerful female CEO booked the whole place for her boy toy. The 5 of us weren't ones to fuss. Since we got our money back and some free coupons, we quickly packed up our things and prepared to leave. I looked around the empty space and had just started to say, "My bag." Noah shook the bag in his hand and finished my sentence. "It's all here. Let's go." I had just started to follow them when I slapped my forehead. "Wait, I left my water bottle in the lounge." Noah stopped me as I was about to turn back. "You wait here. I know exactly where it is. I'll go get it." Ryan noticed Chloe had suddenly stopped, her gaze fixed on another part of the lobby. He followed her line of sight, puzzled, and saw a group of 3 guys and 2 girls. The clean-cut boy in the middle had his back to them. Ryan curiously sized up the group, then turned back to Chloe, confused. "That doesn't seem like your type." Chloe shot him a cold look and suddenly demanded, "Didn't you say you were going to clear the court?" Ryan looked baffled and replied defensively, "Weren't you the one complaining it was too crowded and noisy?" Chloe slowly lowered her head, her gaze intensely fixed on Ryan, her tone deceptively calm. "Kicking out customers like this will hurt your dad's business." Ryan waved his hand dismissively. "My dad opened this court for fun. He doesn't care about this small amount of business." Chloe gave a non-committal nod, her eyes involuntarily flicking back to the other side of the lobby. She saw the tall Noah walking out of the lounge area, carrying a blue water bottle with a Cinnamoroll design on it. Chloe's jaw tightened. Why was it always this persistent Noah? Seeing her constantly distracted, Ryan stepped in front of her, his tone tinged with the impatience of being ignored. "Are you going to play or not?" Chloe finally snapped out of it, turned without a word, and walked towards the VIP reception. "Thanks." I happily hugged the water bottle and gave Noah a thumbs up. Leo watched from the side, shaking his head and teasing, "Ethan, you're always so forgetful." I retorted indignantly, "I only brought 2 things with me today, a bag and this water bottle. How can I be so forgetful?" The group was laughing and talking as they headed out. Just as they were about to leave the court, a staff member ran up, sweating profusely. "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, but a guest in the reception area would like to invite you all to stay and play a game with them." The staff member wiped the sweat from his forehead, explaining awkwardly, having just kicked them out and now eagerly inviting them back, anyone would find the situation embarrassing. Noah frowned at the staff member and asked, "Who is it?" The staff member replied respectfully. "The guest said she is a friend of Ms. Chow." Leo excitedly punched Noah on the shoulder and joked, "Not bad, Noah. When did you make such a powerful friend?" Noah's frown deepened, his face a mask of confusion. "I have no idea who it could be." In the luxurious VIP reception room, Ryan stood by the leather sofa with his arms crossed, pouting. He had clearly promised to play tennis with me, so why the sudden, inexplicable invitation for friends? He deliberately raised his voice, his tone filled with clear questioning and dissatisfaction. Chloe, on the other hand, sat on the sofa, slowly swirling the delicate teacup in her hand, her deep gaze following the ripples in the cup. Ryan's tone was nonchalant. "I never said I'd play with you." He stomped his foot in anger, grabbed the teacup from the table, and downed the tea in one gulp. Then he slammed the cup down, the bottom hitting the table with a sharp clink. The group followed the staff member to the empty tennis court. I turned to Noah. "Why isn't your friend here yet?" The staff member bowed slightly. "They are changing. Please wait a moment." Leo sat with his arms crossed, complaining, "If they invited us, why are they making us wait?" I unscrewed my bottle, took a sip of water, and stared at the entrance to the court. Who on earth was Noah's friend? Just then, Liam tugged at my sleeve, his voice filled with surprise. "Ethan, look, isn't that Chloe?" I followed his gaze and knew it was her in a single glance. Chloe was wearing black sportswear, followed by a handsome guy. Their outfits were so similar they almost looked like a couple. Chloe walked straight towards me, a bandage on the corner of her eye. There was no fight scene in the plot at this point, so what had happened? Noah took a step forward, blocking Chloe's gaze from me. Leo stood to the side and demanded, "Were you the one who called us here?" Chloe had just caught a glimpse of me before the 2 of them blocked her view. A slight smile played on her lips. "Don't you want to play tennis?" Noah's gaze was cold. "Don't you think it's a bit much to impersonate my friend?" Chloe's smile turned mischievous. "More than a bit much. It's downright shameless." I tugged on Noah's sleeve. "Let's just go back." Chloe's eyes were like ice as she stared at my hand clutching his sleeve. Then she looked up and let out a soft laugh. "Scared to even play a game of tennis?" Leo snorted. "Who's scared? Bring it on. I'll go first." I let go of Noah's hand, forgetting Leo's reckless nature. "All right, you've got guts." Chloe tilted her head and gestured for Mia and Sarah to come over, along with a stranger. "We'll split into teams and play, 5 on each side," Chloe arranged casually. I looked at her team, all girls, and frowned in protest. "Your team is all girls. That's not fair." Chloe's eyes were fixed on me. How about I join your team? I took a wary step back. Who wants you over here? Noah immediately stepped forward. It's settled then. Who's first? Mia stepped forward with her racket. I'll go first. Everyone thought Noah was going to play, but he patted Leo on the shoulder. You go first. Play well. Leo walked onto the court with a look of resignation. I sat on the bench, clutching my water bottle, my expression tense, wondering if Leo could win. Mason was also clenching his fists nervously. Mia didn't look very professional, but Leo wasn't backing down. I glanced over at Chloe's side. Besides the guy watching the match, everyone else was looking at their phones. Across the court, Chloe looked up, and our eyes met. I panicked for a second, quickly looking down and unscrewing my bottle to take a drink. Mason asked from the side, confused, doesn't it have a straw? Why are you unscrewing the cap to drink? I licked my lips to hide my awkwardness. It's just easier to drink this way. Liam chimed in, don't you like to bite the straw? I cleared my throat and brushed it off. Biting straws is a bad habit. I need to break it. Noah looked down at me. I'll buy you a camera if you break the habit. Why the sudden change of heart? I gave a casual explanation, knowing that even if he bought it, it would just collect dust, and completely ignored the gaze from across the court. Ryan watched the match and, realizing Mia couldn't play at all, anxiously leaned over to Chloe. Is your friend even reliable? Chloe glanced at him. She's never played tennis before. Ryan was stunned. Then why did you ask her to come? To have fun, kill some time, Chloe said in an extremely casual tone. Ryan was so angry he was speechless. Chloe, be honest. Is there someone you like on the other team? Chloe's eyes flickered towards me, then she looked down at the pattern on the floor. Can you just shut up? As the game went on, Leo relaxed. And here I thought you were a pro. Mia nodded slightly. You flatter me, you flatter me. It was supposed to be Liam's turn, but I stopped him. Let me go this time. Ryan was about to go on court, but Chloe picked up her racket. I'll play this round. Ryan was a bit defiant. I can handle it myself. Chloe shook the racket in her hand. I don't like the look of him. I have to play this one. Ryan glanced at me, confused. I was handsome and well-built, clearly her type. Chloe walked up to the net and looked at me. Why the switch? Why did you delete my contact? Her voice reached me clearly, and I was momentarily speechless, not knowing how to answer. I had taken a few tennis lessons before and wanted to give it my all, but the plot of the original story flashed in my mind. Chloe would, in order to save that guy, completely dominate the captain of a professional tennis team. I didn't want to be a backdrop for their romance. The tension in my ready stance slackened, and I silently told myself, I give up. I looked at Chloe, my gaze clear. Chloe tightened her grip on her racket. What did you just say? I took a deep breath, my eyes slightly red. I said, I give up. I dropped my racket and hurried away. Noah picked up his bag and followed me. Leo, bring back the rackets. The racket fell from Chloe's hand. Mia and Sarah walked over. What's going on? Why did he just leave all of a sudden? Mia picked up the fallen racket. Weren't we supposed to lose to him on purpose? How are we supposed to continue this act now? Chloe shoved the ball at Mia. Something came up. I have to go. Mia watched her back. It was obvious she was going after a guy. Sarah shook her head. Chloe is usually the one being chased. This Ethan kid is something else. As soon as Chloe chased me out of the tennis court, she got a call from her father. She hung up with an annoyed expression, only for him to send a text demanding, did you just leave him there by himself? Chloe turned off her phone. After spotting Noah's figure, she quickened her pace to catch up. Ethan, wait! Noah followed closely behind me. At least tell me what's going on. I kept my head down, walking quickly. Noah, stop following me. I can get back on my own. Noah's voice was filled with worry. How can I leave you alone like this? My voice trembled slightly. I'm not a child anymore. You're acting like a child throwing a tantrum, running off after losing something. He grabbed my arm and sighed. Want to go cry behind that billboard? I couldn't break free and turned my head away. I'm not crying. Noah let go and took a few steps back. I slowly moved behind the billboard, buried my head, my shoulders trembling slightly. Noah quietly walked over and stood by my side, watching over me in silence. Chloe saw this and was about to run over, but the light suddenly turned green, and traffic surged forward. A black sedan slowly pulled up, and her father's face appeared in the window. Get in the car, her father said, his tone calm but authoritative. Chloe ignored him and kept walking. Two men got out of the car and blocked her path. Chloe turned around, her face full of hostility. What do you want? Her father repeated, get in the car. You marrying that woman has nothing to do with me. Let me go. Chloe's words were sharp. Her father silently rolled up the window, but the bodyguards didn't move. Suppressing her anger, Chloe opened the car door, got into the back seat, and met her father's gaze in the rearview mirror. Go to the front. Who's up ahead that's got you in such a hurry? Her father asked casually, noticing the old watch Chloe was wearing. Why not wear the new one? You change men faster than I change watches, Chloe retorted sarcastically. Her father's temples throbbed with anger. The car slowly pulled over to the side of the road, and he looked out the window. Is that your little boyfriend? Her father asked, his tone laced with mockery. Chloe looked out the window at me, curled up on the ground, with Noah standing guard like a sentinel. Is the one next to him his girlfriend? You're not thinking of interfering, are you? Chloe turned her head away coldly. A decorative object fell under the seat, and the driver gasped in fear. You won't be happy until you've angered me to death, will you? Chloe watched through the window as Noah patted my head, the distance between us growing. I'll take over the company when you retire, Chloe joked casually. Her father was too angry to respond. Chloe opened her phone to check her messages. Sarah and the others had planned to intentionally lose to me in the match, but I had just run off. Chloe followed her father, keeping a significant distance. When they got home, she walked straight upstairs without even a glance at the living room. Stop! Where are you going? Her father shouted towards the staircase. Chloe continued walking without looking back. Julian waited with great anticipation, but he didn't even catch a glimpse of Chloe. Fiona stood up to comfort Mr. Clark and quietly told Julian to behave. Mr. Clark saw Julian's face. You must be Julian. My daughter has a bad temper. Please bear with her. Julian replied softly, Mr. Clark, I think Chloe is a good person. We met at the hospital. Fiona asked in surprise, when did you go to the hospital? Just then, Chloe came downstairs, her eyes fixed on Fiona. Where are the things from my room? I told you, don't touch my things. Fiona clasped her hands, looking flustered. I had the maid clean the room. Chloe took a deep breath, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You're really something. The butler entered respectfully. Your packages are in the attic. Those are birthday gifts from friends. Chloe nodded. Fiona moved closer to Chloe. Today is Julian's first time here. Let's have a family dinner together. Hearing Julian's name, a hint of mockery appeared in Chloe's eyes. Your mom is so capable. Why does she still make you work a part-time job? Julian smiled serenely and didn't respond. Fiona tried to ease the tension. Julian's grades are excellent. He's definitely at the top of his class. Chloe gave a dismissive smile. I thought you cared more about him. Julian forced a smile and explained, Crestwood University doesn't have class rankings. The maid walked in carrying a cardboard box. All the cleared-out clutter is in here. Chloe strode over, immediately spotted a bright yellow box, took out a keychain, and left the rest. Her father watched from the side. Is such a small trinket worth getting so angry over? Chloe clutched the item tightly. No one is allowed to touch my things. Julian watched this hypocritical scene, his heart filled with a mix of emotions, mostly jealousy. He took out his phone and sent a message. Can you send me Ethan's contact? We hit it off last time we met. Meanwhile, I was walking on the asphalt road, having just finished a call with my mom. Noah followed behind me. Do you want to be alone? I shoved my phone into his hand. Of course not. My gloomy mood had lifted a bit. Let's ask the others to go to a bar tomorrow. I'll be watching you anyway, Noah said flatly. I picked up my phone to reply to a message and saw a friend request from Julian. This guy suddenly added me. Should I accept? Noah glanced at the screen. No, there might be a reason. I'll add him and see. Chloe returned to her room alone and looked at the bright yellow gift box, a gift I had given her before we were together. Her fingers toyed with the ribbon as she remembered the image of Noah and me. Unrequited love? Stealing someone away. She spat out the words through gritted teeth and threw the box aside. Chloe never initiated trouble with others. I was originally one of her pursuers, but my excessive enthusiasm annoyed her. Until the fight, Mia's shop was trashed, and Chloe rode her motorcycle to the rescue, with me following behind in casual clothes. Chloe arrived at the chaotic alley and swiftly knocked out the troublemaker with her helmet. I rushed over and grabbed her arm. Chloe, are you okay? Chloe's voice was cold. Let go of me first. You're bleeding. Does it hurt? We need to get to a hospital. I grabbed her right hand. Chloe's gaze fell on my hand. It's someone else's blood. I let out a long sigh of relief and carefully wiped the blood from her hand. Mia exclaimed from the side, Ethan, your arm is bleeding. Chloe immediately grabbed my hand, her eyes intensely pressuring. I explained dryly, I was just passing by. Sarah handed over a bandage, and Chloe tore open the packaging and applied it for me, her gaze focused and her expression serious. I'm going to keep this bandage forever. My voice trembled with excitement. Chloe ruffled my hair. Can't mess up the hairstyle. I quickly smoothed down my ruffled hair. Chloe glanced at the alley entrance. Let's go once this is settled. Mia thought she was talking to her until the car keys were handed to me, and I suddenly realized, aren't you coming with us? Sarah gave me a meaningful look, then glanced at Chloe, seeming to understand something in an instant, and quickly pulled Mia away. I watched them leave, quickly wiped the silly grin off my face, and waved at Chloe. Bye! Chloe also raised her hand, mimicking my gesture, but she didn't move, just slightly curled her fingers in a beckoning motion. I obediently took 2 steps towards her. Chloe, is there something else you wanted to say? Chloe's lips parted slightly, and she pointed to the bandage on my arm. Remember to change the dressing. I tried hard to suppress a smile and nodded vigorously. I will, but you put this on yourself. I'll never throw it away. Let's go, Chloe said, tilting her head slightly. I obediently took 2 steps out, then couldn't resist turning back. Bye! Chloe couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. Go right. I glanced to the right, but my house is to the left. Chloe grabbed my wrist, took 2 steps to the right, and pointed to a newly opened pharmacy. Seeing me still standing there dumbfounded, she simply pulled me inside. After buying iodine and more bandages, she hooked the plastic bag with her fingertip and held it out to me. I looked up and asked curiously, "Are these for me?" Chloe didn't hand me the bag, but held it herself. "I'll walk you home." Quickly shook my head. "No need. The sun is so strong today. What if you get heat stroke? Let me call a car for you." I took out my phone and opened a ride-sharing app. "Thank you so much for today." Chloe suddenly said, "Make a request." After saying this, she stared at me intently. I instinctively looked up and our eyes met. Chloe lowered her gaze slightly, her eyes resting on my face. I nervously pursed my lips, my heart in turmoil. The bright sunlight poured down, making her eyes look clear and bright. In her eyes, even the fine hairs on the side of my face were clearly visible. "A request? Can I ask for anything?" Chloe glanced at the water bottle at my waist. I had nearly picked off all the stickers. She suppressed a smile and replied softly, The moment she replied, I spun around in excitement, a huge smile on my face, my eyes curving into crescents. Wait. Chloe remained silent. I grabbed her hand and started running, deliberately choosing less crowded paths. I jogged with long strides, and her gaze fell on our joined hands as she easily kept up with me. We walked into a shaded area. Chloe, who rarely showed her emotions, was now curious about what I was going to do. In fact, her words had already been a promise. She would most likely agree to whatever I asked. I smiled, let go of her hand, and immediately turned around. A moment later, her phone buzzed. It was a message from me. "My request is for Chloe Clark to be my girlfriend." Chloe looked down and chuckled softly. "Okay." I immediately took 2 steps closer to her, then unexpectedly took 1 step back. You agreed?" Chloe glanced away, one hand holding her phone by her side, the other casually in her pocket. Her stance was lazy yet effortlessly cool. What else? Was I supposed to say no? I jumped up and down in excitement, my voice filled with unrestrained joy. When we reached the entrance to my neighborhood, Chloe turned to leave, but I hooked her finger. "Wait, Chloe." She tilted her head to look at me. I reached into her pocket and took out her phone. Chloe raised an eyebrow. "We just got together, and you're already going through my phone? You've got some nerve." I handed her the lit-up phone. "Unlock it." "What are you planning to do?" Chloe asked as she unlocked it. "You'll see in a bit." I took the unlocked phone, turned my back, and quickly tapped away. Chloe stood quietly behind me, watching as I changed my contact name in her phone to Ethan Baby. She frowned slightly but didn't stop me. Done. I put the phone back in her pocket and looked at her with a smile. "I have an 8 a.m. class tomorrow. What do you want for breakfast? I can bring it to you. We can sit together in class and have lunch together, okay?" Snapping out of her memories, Chloe pushed open the door and returned home. "Have the maid put the gifts in the storage room." "Should I open this yellow box too?" Mrs. Wong asked, pointing to the gift on the sofa. Chloe glanced at it faintly. But just as Mrs. Wong was about to untie the ribbon, Chloe stopped her. "Just leave it there for now." Mrs. Wong's hand froze. "Then, should I put it back where it was?" Chloe felt a wave of irritation and just nodded slightly. She saw a message from Mia, inviting her to a bar to relax. She initially wanted to refuse, but she couldn't stand being in her room any longer. Her chest felt tight, and she thought going to a bar might help suppress her emotions. So she replied with a single word, "Going." She went to her closet, grabbed a light blazer, and on her way out, she specifically told Mrs. Wong, "Don't touch that yellow box." "Okay," Mrs. Wong replied, looking up. Chloe said no more and turned to leave. In the dimly lit noir bar, I was wearing a rare black shirt, looking fresh and clean. Mason grabbed me. "You're dressed so sharp. Why are you still wearing white sneakers?" Liam looked me over. "It does clash a bit." I stomped my foot. "But these are comfortable. Other shoes hurt my feet." Leo knew we were coming to a bar tonight and had specially changed into a black shirt, looking much more mature than usual. I glanced at Noah. "I told you to wear something more mature, but you insisted on this white shirt. You practically have student written all over your face." "I am a student," Noah replied nonchalantly. We found a table in the corner and sat down. The bar wasn't very crowded yet. I glanced around the somewhat empty space and felt a little disappointed. "Isn't this supposed to be the hottest bar? It doesn't look like much." Leo waved over a waiter to order drinks. "It'll get crowded later, so crowded you'll feel like you're running out of air." As we were looking at the drink menu, a commotion erupted nearby. I curiously looked over and saw many people in the bar turning towards the entrance. I saw Chloe, her face cold, glancing at Julian beside her. "Why did you follow me here?" Julian smiled serenely. "Mrs. Clark wants us to get along. Can't we just put on a show in public?" Chloe looked down at him coldly. A cunning glint flashed in Julian's eyes. "Chloe, we're actually the same kind of person." The bar was dimly lit and bustling with people. I only saw a tall figure in a suit, followed by a guy in a white shirt. Someone came over to greet them warmly and led them to a private elevator. I was mindlessly scrolling on my phone when, just as the elevator doors were about to close, my gaze pierced through the crowd and landed inside. The people blocking my view had somehow dispersed, as if it were fated. Through the dim light of the bar, I saw Chloe in a casual blazer, with the delicate-looking guy standing beside her. One of her hands was in her pocket, the other casually holding her phone, her bangs obscuring her long eyelashes. She was looking down at her phone screen. I don't know what Julian said to her, but she tilted her head to look at him, a faint smile on her lips, then raised her hand to check her watch. The two of them looked so dazzling together. As the elevator doors slowly closed, I stared at my reflection in the silver doors, my eyes slightly red. Ethan, Mason gently tugged my hand. What are you staring at over there? Did you see someone you know? I snapped back to reality and shook my head in a fluster. No. Looking at the wide variety of drinks on the screen, I handed the tablet to Mason. You choose. I'll have whatever you're having. Liam reached out and felt my forehead. Ethan, what's wrong? A minute ago, you were excitedly saying you wanted to order one of everything. Why the sudden loss of interest? I listlessly lowered my eyes, swirling the clear glass in my hand, which Noah had filled with warm water for me. I muttered in a low voice, my feelings don't matter anyway. My voice was instantly drowned out by the heavy metal music. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Julian. We had added each other as friends last time but hadn't spoken since. Did you and Chloe break up? My thumb pressed hard on the chat box. I wanted to reply yes, but the more I thought about it, the more wronged I felt. Why should I have to answer him just because he asked? He was the one who added me, never said hello, and now he was suddenly asking this with such a condescending tone. The more I thought, the angrier I got. My breathing quickened, and my chest heaved. I glared at the message and angrily typed out a reply. No, we didn't. What are you going to do about it? A second after I sent it, I was filled with regret. I bit my lip, wanting to retract it immediately, my fingertips trembling so much that I accidentally hit the wrong button. My friends around me were all stunned. Noah was the first to stand up, reaching for my phone. I clutched it tightly, refusing to let go, and even managed to turn it off. Mason threw an arm around my shoulder. What's going on? Why are you so angry? I hit delete instead of retract. I collapsed into Mason's arms, clutching my phone. It's okay. What message were you trying to retract? I told them everything, seeing Chloe at the bar, and Julian's provocative message. Mason immediately stood up for me. What kind of nerve is that? How dare the two of them show up together? I picked up the glass from the table, put a straw in it, and took a sip of water, holding it in my mouth. So what do I do now? I just told him we didn't break up. If Chloe sees that, I'll be so embarrassed. What if she confronts me? Liam asked me seriously. So, are you and Chloe officially broken up? Did either of you formally end it? I bit down hard on the plastic straw, took a big gulp of water, and swallowed before saying in a muffled voice. Neither of us said it, but we both know it's basically the same as being broken up. Leo slapped his thigh. I think I get it. You both sensed the feelings were fading, so you started slowly distancing yourselves from each other. That's like a silent breakup, right? I nodded helplessly. Leo leaned on Noah's shoulder, a mischievous grin on his face. This is actually easy to solve. You told Julian you didn't break up, which is technically true since neither of you officially said it. Couples fight and give each other the cold shoulder all the time. Isn't that what you're doing now? Liam chimed in. Exactly, Leo's analysis is spot on. If Chloe really comes to ask, you just confidently tell her you haven't broken up. Noah looked at the three of us, took my nearly empty glass, and refilled it with some warm water. No need to make it so complicated. A good ex should be like they're dead, Noah said calmly. Just block and delete Julian. If Chloe contacts you, ignore her. That's a real breakup. Mason swallowed hard, staring at Noah. Noah, I seriously suspect you've been secretly dating behind our backs. Liam nodded vigorously. How do you know so much? Leo looked at Noah. Spill it now. I raised my hand in agreement. I'm also suspicious of Noah. Noah looked at me, the culprit. Isn't this your fault? Every time you come over to do homework, you insist on watching those cheesy dramas while pestering me to teach you. Watch enough of them and you naturally learn all the tropes. I guiltily shrank back. All right. I forget those shows as soon as I finish them. I didn't realize you paid such close attention. Before long, our orders arrived. Looking at the beautiful drink in my glass, all my worries instantly vanished. Meanwhile, in the luxurious private room 1002, Chloe sat upright in the center of the sofa. She exuded a powerful aura, making her particularly eye-catching in the dim, noisy space. Julian had followed her in silently, to which Chloe had no reaction. In this lively setting, surrounded by countless unfamiliar faces, everyone was just putting on an act. Julian sat quietly in a corner, deliberately keeping his distance from Chloe. His phone screen suddenly lit up. He glanced down and saw my recent reply. A triumphant smile unconsciously spread across his face. He then stood up, phone in hand, and quickly left the room to make a call. Hello, Ethan. Chloe was about to pick up her glass when she faintly heard my name, and her hand froze midair. Her deep, dark eyes lifted, following his retreating figure until the door to the room slowly closed. Only then did she put down her glass, stand up, and follow him out. At another table, Noah watched me down half a glass in one go and frowned with concern. This drink isn't that strong, but you're usually a lightweight. You should probably drink less. I held up my glass, shaking my head and slurring loudly. That's exactly why I need to drink more today, because I rarely drink. Mason also raised his glass and clinked it with mine. All right, it's Ethan's first time at a bar. Just let him have his fun. Even if he gets drunk, we're here to take care of him, right? But this is already his third glass, Noah said with a sigh, pushing a fruit platter in front of me. Eat some fruit. It'll help with the alcohol. I took another big gulp, and seeing only ice left in my glass, I used the table to stand up, my steps already a bit unsteady. I need to go to the restroom. Noah quickly reached out to support me. Can you make it on your own? Let me walk you there. I nodded obediently and gave him a thumbs up. You're a great guy. Noah looked at my flushed cheeks, sighed, and helped me walk. There was a long line for the restroom. Noah held me up firmly, but I still leaned limply against him. Why is the line so long? I mumbled anxiously. Noah. I tugged at Noah, about to push forward. I really can't hold it. Noah quickly pulled me back. All right, just hold on a little longer. It's almost your turn. Julian, who had just come out of the restroom, saw Chloe standing outside the door. Before he could speak, from the end of the hallway, Noah, I called out drunkenly. Chloe and Julian turned their heads at the same time. Julian's eyes widened in surprise when he saw me in this state. Chloe, who had been leaning against the wall, instantly straightened up, her body stiff. Her gaze first fell on Noah's hand supporting me, then fixed on my flushed face. Noah, of course, also noticed Chloe and paused for a moment. I clung to Noah's sleeve, using my drunken state to whine. Are you doing this on purpose? Just because I had a few extra drinks, you're just going to stand there and watch me suffer? Chloe abruptly turned her head away, trying not to look at the jarring scene. But a second later, her eyes uncontrollably drifted back. A wave of irritation washed over her. Getting wasted late at night and clinging to a girl like that, did he really not understand the danger? Chloe forcibly suppressed her inner turmoil. She wanted to turn around and go back to her private room, but her gaze was rooted to me, unable to move away. Noah looked down at his wrinkled shirt, sighed helplessly, and supported my swaying body. Stop fooling around. Get in there. I obediently said, oh, and stumbled inside, holding onto the wall for support. Noah turned to look back down the hallway, but Chloe was gone. Julian stood there alone, giving him a meaningful look. It's just me and my grandparents at home. Today was my first day at this part-time job, and I haven't even gotten paid yet. I came out of the restroom, swaying and holding onto the wall. The moment I appeared, someone grabbed my wrist and pulled me into the nearby stairwell. I want to take the elevator. I planted my feet, refusing to move, and leaned back. I'm not taking the stairs. I usually wore casual clothes in front of her. This was the first time she had seen me in a black shirt like this. The fact that I was muttering Noah was incredibly annoying. Chloe said nothing, took off her jacket, draped it over me and held me steady. Drunk as I was, the familiar scent calmed me down, and I stopped making a fuss. Chloe gently pressed my head, feeling the warmth of my breath. Noah immediately ran to the restroom and checked the time. He wanted to message Mason to come check on me. Just then, a message popped up on his phone from Chloe. Ethan is with me. A simple sentence with no hint of reassurance. What do you want? Where are you? Noah sent the message, glanced at the stairwell, and rushed down the stairs. Another message from Chloe came in. Nothing, just asking him something. I'll have him back by 10. Noah stared at the words and nearly tripped. He grabbed the handrail, taking the stairs 4 at a time down to the first floor. The bar was twice as crowded now, and he couldn't see me anywhere. Outside the bar's parking lot, Mr. Lee quickly got out to open the car door for Chloe. He was slightly taken aback when he saw the person she was supporting. My slightly curly short hair was disheveled. Chloe had one arm around my waist and the other supporting the back of my neck, her long fingers pressed against the back of my head. My face was buried in her shoulder, hidden from view. Mr. Lee recognized the black jacket as Chloe's. My clean white sneakers kept brushing against her pant leg. Chloe had always been a neat freak. Mr. Lee, who had watched her grow up, had never seen her let someone else wear her clothes, let alone personally help them into a car. As Chloe was helping me into the car, I swung my legs and mumbled, I'm so hungry. Chloe froze for a second, hearing me mumble incoherently, I'm hungry. Noah, I'm hungry. Chloe's tongue pressed against her teeth, and she said slowly, then starve. She helped me into the back seat and got in after me. Mr. Lee closed the door and returned to the driver's seat. How can you let me starve to death? I leaned on Chloe's shoulder, my eyes closed in a daze, one hand behind my head, the other patting her head. Chloe tilted her head to the side and asked with a sigh, what do you want to eat? Mango mille crepe. Chloe was silent for a moment, remembering she had ordered it for me last time. My soft, slurred voice reached her ears. Noah. Chloe covered my mouth with her hand and looked up at Mr. Lee. Go to Sweet Spot Dessert Shop. My hand, which was near her ear, suddenly pinched her earlobe. I frowned tightly, my eyes closed in protest. We can't go to Sweet Spot. You're trying to kill me. Chloe chuckled. Weren't you the one who wanted to eat? I pouted pitifully. I'm drunk. Then I started tugging her earlobe back and forth. We can't go. Chloe felt a wave of dizziness. She grabbed my hand, freeing her earlobe. "We're not going." A drunk person saying they can't go to a dessert shop was a logic that was hard to follow. Chloe didn't take it seriously, pinching the soft flesh of my cheek and saying with a hint of revenge, "You really don't hold back." Seeing she hadn't changed her mind, Mr. Lee continued driving towards the dessert shop. I started clamoring for water again. It was hard to give me water while I was leaning, so Chloe took my hand and helped me sit up straight. I couldn't hold myself up at all. If Chloe wasn't supporting me, I would have fallen forward. She had no choice but to wrap one arm around me and twist open a water bottle with the other. She held the water to my lips, but I pushed it away haphazardly, spilling a good amount of the full bottle. Chloe glanced down, then looked up at me quietly, her eyes full of scrutiny. On purpose. I guiltily lowered my head, my eyes slightly narrowed, and mumbled, "I'm thirsty." If my cheeks weren't so flushed, Chloe would have been sure I did it on purpose. She took a tissue and quickly wiped her black pants, leaving a water stain. I hugged her arm and opened my mouth, biting down on the bottle's opening. Drool. Chloe tossed the tissue, held my chin, and slowly tilted the bottle, letting the water flow into my mouth. Chloe had never served anyone like this in her life, not even having to personally feed someone water. After a while, I had drunk most of the bottle and gradually stopped. Chloe quickly pulled the bottle away. "You don't even say when you're done." She fumbled a bit, trying to pick up the cap to screw it on. The moment she aligned it with the bottle's opening, she felt water trickling down. My chin was resting on her arm, and drool was running down it. She endured the discomfort on her arm, quickly screwed the cap on, and tossed the bottle aside. She took several tissues and gently wiped the corners of my mouth. I tilted my head back in response. Chloe got a clear look at my face. She stared at it, wiped her hands with a tissue, and her gaze fell to my collar. My shirt, unbuttoned by 2 buttons, had been inadvertently splashed with water. Under the warm yellow light of the car, my hoarse voice called out, Chloe." Chloe's eyelashes fluttered, and her deep eyes looked at me. Those eyes were like a whirlpool capable of pulling you in. I shrank back in fear. She noticed my small movement and let out a soft laugh that echoed in the quiet car. Avoiding me, Chloe didn't touch me. Leaning back, her dark eyes flickered as she glanced at me. "This drunk, and you still know to avoid me?" This was followed by another low laugh, tinged with a hint of self-mockery. The car came to a smooth stop, and Mr. Lee ran to open the door. Chloe got out first, her arm resting on the edge of the door, and looked at me inside the car. "Aren't you getting out?" Hearing Chloe's voice, I instinctively shrank back again. Chloe leaned into the car, grabbed my arm, and pulled me out, her arm around my shoulder. She picked up the fallen jacket and draped it over my shoulders. We walked into Sweet Spot and found a place to sit. Chloe supported me the whole way, even choosing a corner table. A waiter came over with a menu. She only ordered the mango milk crepe, then after a thought, added, "And a glass of warm water." She looked down at me, leaning against her. It seemed that after she called his name, I had stopped making a fuss. She gently patted my shoulder and called out, "Ethan." Seeing no reaction, she leaned in closer. "Ethan." Chloe seemed to think of something, a faint smile playing on her lips. She leaned in close to my ear and whispered tentatively, "Ethan." I nodded obediently and hummed in agreement. The waiter brought the warm water. Chloe took it, intending to help me drink, but I shook my head, not wanting it, so she placed it back on the table. There weren't many customers at the front counter of the dessert shop, and 2 girls were chatting softly. "The more I look, the more I think it's him." "I think so too. He looks drunk." "Is that his girlfriend?" "She was supporting him the whole time they came in." "Should we tell the manager?" Chloe looked at me and asked, "Do you know who I am?" I pouted pitifully and mumbled back, "That one." "Which one?" "That one." "Which one is that?" "Say my name." The mango milk crepe was served. Chloe forked a small piece and held it to my lips. Just as I opened my mouth to eat it, she moved it away. Chloe lifted the fork, her voice full of patient temptation. "Which one am I? Tell me and you can have it." I stared at her blankly, raised my hand to poke her cheek, and mumbled her name, "Chloe." Then I lowered my head and muttered to myself, "Besides her, no one else cares." A passionate iceberg. Chloe heard her name but not the rest. She leaned in and asked softly, "What did you say?" My hand slid down weakly, and my body started to slump. Chloe quickly steadied me. "All right, as long as you know who I am." Chloe nodded slightly, then continued to question me. "Let me ask you, why did you delete my contact?" I shot my head up, suddenly shoved her, and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Didn't we break up?" "What do you mean, asking that?" My voice grew louder, and I shot up from my seat, pointing at Chloe and shouting, "You're a big liar. You, Ethan." Chloe stood up too, but before she could touch me, a woman in an apron ran over and grabbed my arm. Chloe glanced at the uniform. Everyone else had a name tag, but this woman didn't. Seeing her hand on me, Chloe sneered. Another one judging by looks. My sister. Ethan's sister had heard I was drunk and eating cake here. She hadn't believed it at first, but seeing me being bullied, she rushed to protect me. Looking Chloe up and down, thinking she looked like trouble, and angrily demanded, "What did you do to him? Get him this drunk." "I got him drunk?" Chloe laughed in anger. "How did I become the one who got him drunk? Do I look like the type to do that?" Chloe didn't know who she was and was fuming inside. She continued sarcastically, "You should ask the other messenger, the one who took him to a bar late at night and let him drink so much. Noah." Ethan's sister helped me sit down and took out her phone to send a message. Hearing that name, Chloe felt a pang and said with a sour, mocking tone, "So you all know each other." She looked at me, hugging a pillow, already fast asleep. She thought to herself, "He says he likes me, but he's probably just keeping his options open." She didn't wait for Ethan's sister to make the call, but went straight over, helped me up, and led me out the door. Ethan's sister hurried after us. She had just run out of the dessert shop when she saw us getting into a car. Her call connected, and as she chased, she asked, "Who is that with Ethan? Does he have a girlfriend?" "Ex-girlfriend. Said she'd have him back by 10. I'm heading to his place now." Ethan's sister slowed down, watched the car drive away, and then immediately got in her own car to follow. Chloe saw the car behind them and told Mr. Lee to speed up and lose her. There was no way she was handing me over. Compared to that strange woman, Noah seemed more reliable. From my fragmented words, Chloe figured out my floor and got into the building. The elevator was private, requiring a key card to go up. Chloe looked at me. "Do you have the key card?" Before I could answer, she reached into my pants pocket. "Hey!" Chloe quickly grabbed my hand and whispered in my ear, "This isn't your bathroom." I broke free from her grasp and took the card out of my pocket. Chloe let out a sigh of relief, her tone holding a hint of praise. Pretty smart. Standing in the private hallway, there was still a keypad lock on the door. Chloe looked at me and complained with a sigh, "Taking you home is like playing an escape room." She fell silent for a moment, a memory of shopping flashing through her mind. "As long as you're happy." The lock beeped and opened. Chloe helped me inside, and the motion sensor lights turned on. In the dim light, a storm of emotions swirled in Chloe's eyes. The password was indeed my birthday. Perhaps because of her strict father, this was the first time she realized a password could be set to a child's birthday. She helped me into the house. It was a bit dark, but the large items were visible. A wide floor-to-ceiling window looked out onto a city of brilliant lights. Chloe scanned the room, saw a row of switches by the door, and flipped them all. With a series of clicks, the room was instantly illuminated. The house was warm and spacious, with a dominant yellow color scheme. Her fingers lingered on the switches. She looked closely and saw they were decorated with star stickers, the edges worn, clearly having been there for a long time. An image of me helplessly picking at the stickers flashed in her mind. She glanced down at the floor. The welcome mat was also star-themed. She helped me further inside, her gaze falling on the area by the window. A cardboard box was filled with old toys, and a photo frame sat on a low cabinet. In the picture, my parents were in the back, and my grandma was in the middle, holding me. There were 4 rooms in total, and Chloe immediately recognized mine by the star charm hanging on the door. She opened the door, and the room was not what she had imagined. She remembered me as someone who bought useless things and expected a cluttered room, but it was actually very neat. The color scheme was blue and white, with almost no clutter. A piano and an easel stood by the window, but there wasn't even a bench in front of the piano. Chloe thought to herself that I must have a short attention span, buying it and then not playing it after a few days. She helped me onto the bed, took off my shoes, and carefully tucked me in. Then she stood up, turned off the room light, and watched my sleeping face in the light filtering through the crack in the door. She hadn't gotten any clear answers today. She pulled a sticky note from the desk, tore one off, and scribbled a line with a flourish. Before leaving the room, she turned off all the lights in the house, gently closed the door, and everything returned to silence. "Finals are just around the corner, and you're still not studying?" I said, watching Mason scroll through videos as I worked on my problems. "I just need to pass, anyway," Mason said nonchalantly. He and I were sitting in the back row of our astronomy elective. I had been enthusiastic during the first class, but after that, I didn't pay much attention and became a regular in the back. "Ethan, what are your plans for the summer break?" Mason asked, turning to me. I shook my head slightly. "I don't know. Last summer, I found out Chloe had gone to the Nguyen's. I lied to my parents, saying I was hanging out with friends, and secretly followed her, only to end up in a miserable situation. This long summer, I decided I would go wherever I wanted. I'll ask in the group chat then," Mason said, exiting the video app. I focused on my practice problems, thinking to myself that I needed to keep my grades up. "Noah is getting a job," Mason said, shaking his head. "He's really working hard. Liam is staying at school for a training program, and Leo is preparing to go abroad." I put down my pen and thought for a moment. "I heard from my grandma that she's going to New York City in July. If nothing else comes up, I'll probably go with her." "New York City? That's far. What for?" Mason asked casually. I frowned slightly and explained. My grandma was adopted. After she married my grandpa, she lost contact with her adoptive family and moved to Boston. I heard my mom mention that grandma has a brother in New York City. I think he's sick, and she wants to visit him. That's so dramatic. Was your grandma a rich heiress who fell in love with a poor guy and cut ties with her family? I couldn't help but laugh and joked. My mom said the family was indeed rich, but it has nothing to do with us. She was adopted and cut ties a long time ago. Are we supposed to expect a share of the inheritance? It was just a small tangent, and we forgot about it after we talked. A few nights before finals, I overheard my mom on the phone. Grandma said she was leaving for New York City. I put down my warm milk and quickly took the phone. Grandma, can you wait a few days? I'll go with you after my exams. My mom smiled and said into the phone, Mom, why don't you wait a few more days? With Ethan by your side, we'll feel more at ease. I'm going to New York City this time, and I probably won't be back for a while. He'll be bored following me around. I smiled helplessly. There's plenty to do in New York City, and if not, I can always just play on my phone. Grandma, let me go with you. There's nothing for me to do in Boston over the summer anyway. Everyone else is busy. Maybe Grandma didn't want to be lonely either, because after hearing what I said, she agreed. Carrying my empty cup, I followed my mother to ask about that family in New York City. Mom, the other day when I was talking to Mason, you mentioned Grandma was a rich heiress. Is that true? Tell me about it. My mom, sitting on the comfortable sofa with a book in her hand, let out a soft laugh. I only heard it from your dad. Apparently, the person who adopted Grandma was a tycoon, and he only did it because of public pressure. Grandma didn't have a good life there. Later, she met your grandpa, but that family didn't approve, so Grandma cut off all ties. Dad wasn't born yet then, right? Did Grandma tell him that? I leaned in curiously, looking like I was ready for some gossip. You can find it online, but it's all superficial information. No one really knows what happened back then. Don't bring it up in front of Grandma. I nodded obediently. Don't worry, I won't say anything, although I agreed my curiosity was piqued. Back in my room, I opened my laptop and typed in my grandma's name, Grace Anderson. It had been decades, so there wasn't much online, but I still found some news. Grandma's birth parents were wealthy merchants who went bankrupt after a financial scandal, leaving her behind as a minor. Her original name was Grace Nam, but after being adopted by the chairman of Apex Corp, she took the surname Anderson. Later, she cut ties and moved to Boston with my grandpa. Thinking about the brother Grandma was going to visit, I typed on the keyboard, searching for related information, but found nothing. I let go of the mouse, and my gaze drifted to a white sticky note on my desk. On it were 2 words, Big Liar. The handwriting was messy but had a certain wildness to it that made me feel uneasy. How did I become a liar? The note had been on my desk for days, and I couldn't figure it out. Noah had told me that Chloe brought me home the night I got drunk, but I couldn't remember what happened in between. My sister said I even went to Sweet Spot, and I had no idea why she took me there, where my sister saw us. It took me days to explain that we were just college classmates. On the last day of finals, I headed to the exam hall early. The sun was high in the sky, and I couldn't be bothered with an umbrella, so I threw on a sun hoodie and a long-brimmed hat that covered most of my face. My phone screen lit up. Mason had sent a video with a stunning thumbnail of Bella Thorne. I quickly typed back, almost at the exam hall. I'll watch it after. If I watch it now, it'll mess with my focus. I walked with my head down, a pencil case tucked under my arm, typing on my phone with both hands. I passed a boba shop and saw it was packed, so I gave up on the idea of getting a cold drink. I was focused on replying to a message when someone suddenly rushed out from the side, bumping into me and sending me stumbling back a few steps. A cold sensation hit me, and the smell of milk tea filled my nose. I looked down to see milk tea dripping on my pants and shoes. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry, the girl said, her face flushed as she apologized profusely. I saw the steps behind her and guessed she had slipped. It's fine. You didn't do it on purpose. I can just wash it off when I get home. I waved my hand dismissively, secretly glad I was wearing the sun hoodie. Just then, a slender hand held out a phone to me. Your phone. The voice was low and lazy. I didn't even need to turn around to know it was Chloe. Ah, Queen Bella is so beautiful. A fan's voice exploded from the video. My mind went blank. My hand trembled as I reached for the phone, and my pencil case clattered onto my shoe, rolling into the puddle of milk tea. I didn't even bother to pick it up, frantically trying to hit the mute button, not even noticing I had brushed her hand. In my panic, I hit the wrong button, and the volume blasted even louder. The fan's voice drilled into my ears. It was mortifying. My face was burning as I snatched the phone and turned it off. If I had known it was that kind of fan video, I never would have opened it, and now it had been broadcasted for everyone to hear from Chloe's hand. The girl with the milk tea blushed even harder and stammered, let me buy you a new drink? I fiddled with the black screen of my phone and sighed weakly, just go. If you don't, I'm gonna find a hole to crawl into. The girl thanked me repeatedly and quickly pulled her friend away. I kept my head down, picked up my dirty pencil case, clutched my phone, and silently turned to leave. Life is long, but it's also short, and there will always be embarrassing moments. The back of my collar was grabbed, my steps faltered, and the hood of my sun hoodie fell off. Chloe's lazy laugh made me wish I could disappear on the spot. I didn't realize you had such special hobbies, she said, her teasing words like needles in my heart. I gritted my teeth. What's it to you? Let go of me. I helped you pick up your phone, got embarrassed along with you, and you don't even say thank you. I spun around and glared at her. You have the nerve to say that? You're the one who played it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I wiped my pencil case on her, smearing milk tea on her black clothes. But the black fabric didn't show the stain, making me feel like my punch had landed on empty air. Childish. Chloe glanced at the stain, completely unconcerned, then leaned down slightly, her eyes fixed on me. You're the one watching questionable things, and you're blaming me? My face flushed with shame, and I bit my lip, retorting loudly, who says I watch it all the time? Chloe let out a soft oh and added, so you watch it every other day. I gritted my teeth and demanded, what's that supposed to mean? Aren't you clear on what you've done? Chloe straightened up, put her hands in her pockets, and started walking. If we don't go now, we'll be late. I followed closely behind her, muttering under my breath, what did I do wrong? If I'm a liar, you're a player. I took a few steps closer, stared straight at her and said, that night, I was with my friends, and you inexplicably took me away. Don't think I blacked out. No what? Chloe strode forward without a glance at me. You were so drunk you forgot your own name. Were you really that comfortable with Noah, or do you just not care? Or maybe you were hoping for something. You've got plenty of knights in shining armor. She let out a sneer. I stood there, stunned and at a loss. When I came to my senses and wanted to ask more, I stopped myself. It had nothing to do with her anyway, so why bother asking for details? Was I supposed to explain myself to her? Chloe and I were supposed to be ignoring each other. Is it that hard to say my name? I gave up struggling, my lips trembling as I spoke. Chloe Clark, it's truly surprising. I never knew you were like this. A sour feeling welled up in my eyes, and my heart was filled with nothing but desolation. The woman I had loved for 4 years was so cold to me. This long-held secret love was ultimately a farce, a deep-seated affection that had turned into a huge joke. Chloe's voice was heavy, tinged with tension. What kind of person I am, and you're asking me? You're selfish and heartless. When have you ever cared if I lived or died? Ethan, think about what you've done. Do you have any right to curse me out? You're right, I'm not worthy. We cut ties a long time ago. I had been holding in my anger for so long. I had a crush on her for 3 years before I confessed. A love so easily won was, of course, treated like nothing. Chloe was always so high and mighty, and I was the humble one trying to please her, like a mindless follower. I didn't even dare to question her when I saw other guys getting close to her, and she never bothered to explain. I shook my head helplessly, my eyes gradually turning red as I stared at Chloe through a film of tears. What did I do wrong? She stared at me, demanding sharply, what did you do wrong? You got wasted with Noah. Ha ha ha. Swear to me, are you two completely innocent? Can't I have friends? Do I have to revolve around you? I threw my phone down in anger. Chloe, in your eyes, am I just an object? If you deign to throw me a scrap, I have to be grateful? Am I worthless to you? Stop playing the victim. In your mind, someone who babies you like Noah is the only one who's sincere, right? Well, I can't do that. Chloe's eyes flickered, and our gazes met. In that instant, our relationship completely fell apart. This time, it was really over. Don't mention Noah. My voice was so weak it felt like it could be carried away by the wind. I turned my face away, not wanting to see her like this. A cool breeze brushed against my cheek, carrying a chill. Chloe gripped me tightly, her fingertips digging into my flesh, leaving deep red marks. In your dreams, I'm not even worthy of mentioning him. Her tone was aggressive. Every time you threw a tantrum, didn't I comfort you? When you were being unreasonable, when did I ever give you the cold shoulder? Chloe couldn't understand who would want to date a puppet. You say you love me, then you turn around and flirt with other guys. You were the one who confessed, so can you stop acting like a giant baby? Ethan, you think you're so great? Playing people for fools? Is that it? My chest heaved as I gasped for the hot air. I lowered my eyes and said in a hoarse voice, Chloe, let's break up. The strength in her hand faltered. I raised my red-rimmed eyes, fighting back tears and emotions. My face flushed. Chloe was suddenly speechless, as if nothing she could say would matter anymore. Tears streamed down my face. So from now on, who I drink with, who I flirt with, has nothing to do with you. You ask about Noah and me? Yes, we're close, we're childhood friends. If you had even tried to understand, you'd know we're just friends. If there was really something going on, you wouldn't have even been in the picture. You blame me for flirting with others, but what about you? I was sick and begged you to stay with me, but you said you were busy. Then I came back from the hospital and saw you chatting with Julian, and he was even touching you. You clearly saw me, but you couldn't be bothered to explain, not a single word. Ethan, that day I was actually, what's the use of explaining now? You were just trying to piss me off, getting close to other guys right in front of me. You don't care at all. Was I just not worth the effort? Or did you think I didn't deserve an explanation? I asked you to go to the amusement park, waited for 2 hours under the scorching sun, got bitten all over my legs by mosquitoes, you rejected my calls, and didn't reply to my messages. I was still foolishly worried about you. Then you came back in a car. I stopped you to ask for an explanation, and do you remember what you said? I forced a bitter smile. You said, Ethan, are you annoying or what? Chloe squeezed her eyes shut, her brows furrowed in a knot. Ethan, that day was actually, save it. Whatever lame excuse you have no right to say it. If you really cared, you would have explained a long time ago. Why pretend to be so devoted now? So, you're drawing a line between us? Chloe snorted. All for Noah. I couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. Think whatever you want. If we see each other again, we'll act like strangers. Chloe gritted her teeth and repeated in a low voice, strangers. Chloe was probably thinking it was just a fleeting sense of competitiveness, that she didn't want to lose to Noah. She was used to being the center of attention and would never be as meticulously caring as Noah, always ready with an umbrella or tissues. A princess like her couldn't do that. I was just an ordinary person. Why would she ever bow her head for me? Let me ask you something. Chloe stared at me. After we break up, will you get with Noah? I looked into her eyes, originally wanting to deny it outright. Even if I got with Leo, it wouldn't be Noah. But looking at her cold eyes, I sneered. Even if I marry him and have kids, it's none of your business. You don't have the right, just like I have no right to ask about your mess with Julian. Chloe's red lips pressed into a thin line, her jaw clenched. Very good. You've even thought about having kids, and you still stubbornly insist you're just friends. Ethan, Noah ran towards me, pulled me behind him, completely separating me from Chloe and blocking her probing gaze. Chloe sneered, a flash of contempt in her eyes. The cavalry has arrived. Since you've broken up, please have some self-respect, Ms. Clark. Noah didn't back down. He'd be much better off without your interference. Chloe watched us walk away, then glanced at the ground. The shattered phone screen lay quietly among the fallen leaves, exuding a hostile energy. Grandma Grace, feeling sorry for me after my exams, had already packed my bags and took me to her place to stay. Grandma Grace asked lovingly, Ethan, did your exams not go well? I immediately forced a smile. Of course not. A small exam like that is nothing for a genius like me. I hugged her tightly. Grandma Grace, is your brother easy to get along with? It's a bit presumptuous of us to stay at his place. What if we make him uncomfortable? Maybe we should stay in a hotel. I came back this time specifically to see him. He's just stubborn. He's been sick for so long and didn't let a word out. Living alone with a mutt in such a big, empty house, and none of his children show up. Why don't they come to visit? A bunch of heartless people. I heard he donated his inheritance to his own. What door are you closing? I retorted angrily. I dislike you the most. Stop making excuses, Grandma Grace said with a smile as she went back to her room. I lay down, hugging a pillow. On the third day, as soon as Grandma Grace and I got off the plane, two men in suits approached us. Are you Ms. Grace Anderson? Grandma Grace nodded slightly. The two men took all our luggage and escorted us to the Astoria Grand. I had some recollection of the name. It was a top luxury residence in New York City, consistently ranked #1. Grandma Grace, you really cared about Grandpa. I couldn't help but remark. Moving out of a mansion like this to live in a regular apartment in Boston, the difference must have been huge. Ethan, Grandma Grace's voice was gentle. A house isn't better just because it's bigger. We pushed the door open to find an old man in a wheelchair with a large yellow dog lying at his feet. I was surprised at first. A prominent family like this, not raising some fancy breed, but a mutt. Standing beside him was an assistant with graying hair, his suit impeccably pressed without a single wrinkle. He bowed slightly. The young Mrs. Flight is delayed. She won't arrive until midnight. Ma'am, please lead us in. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Lewis, we have distinguished guests. The old man's body jolted, and Mr. Lewis immediately looked towards us, a smile appearing at the corners of his eyes. Though old, his gaze was sharp as a hawk. 3rd Mississippi. Grandma Grace squeezed my hand. You're still working for the Anderson family? After all these years, your eyes are still as sharp as ever. However, the old man didn't turn around. Grandma Grace led me forward, right up to his wheelchair. The man before me, though confined to a wheelchair, still possessed an undiminished air of authority, his eyes as deep as a cold pond. He didn't look at Grandma Grace, but instead fixed his gaze on me. This young man is... I waited obediently for the elder to introduce me before greeting him. My godgrandson, Ethan. Grandma Grace's voice was steady, but held a slight tremor. I was slightly taken aback and instinctively glanced at her, squeezing her hand tighter. Hello, Mr. Anderson. I'm Ethan. I was worried about my grandma traveling alone, so I insisted on coming along. I apologize for the imposition during this time. Facing the man's powerful presence, I felt a bit reserved. I gave a respectful bow before taking a proper look at his face. Ethan, Mr. Anderson smiled politely and gave a slight nod. I was in a daze as an image of Chloe flashed through my mind. The day we first met, I was helping a teacher with registration. Just as I was about to turn it in, she appeared, leaning against the back door of the classroom, her tall, slender figure silhouetted against the bright light, casting a shadow over me. I turned to look. Chloe Clark. Her voice was cool and lazy, like a devil's whisper. My heart skipped a beat, and I stared at her, dumbfounded. Her brow bones were exquisitely defined, her dark eyes like an abyss, holding a hint of untamable wildness. The teacher sent us to move some books. On the way, I quietly introduced myself. My name is Ethan. Others would usually compliment the name or affectionately call me Ethan, but she just gave a perfunctory response. It's been a long time. The old man's hoarse voice, weak from a long illness, pulled me back from my thoughts. This grandfather and granddaughter were so alike in personality, both cold to the bone, held together only by a veneer of civility. Don't mind him. The younger generation is too busy making money to have time for filial piety, Grandma Grace said, pushing the wheelchair. Ethan, you go look around. I'll chat with him for a bit. I nodded repeatedly. Okay, Grandma. Lewis, please get young Mr. Ethan settled in first, Mr. Anderson instructed, then turned to Grandma Grace. You'll be staying in your old room, right? Nothing inside has been touched. I saw Grandma Grace's eyes turn red as she silently nodded. It seemed she still held some affection for the Anderson family after all. Grandma Grace turned and told Mr. Lewis, have Ethan stay near me. He's afraid of the dark and has trouble sleeping in new places. Then we'll put him in the room next to the young miss right beside you, Mr. Lewis suggested in a low voice. It's just that the young miss comes home late, and I'm afraid she might disturb the guest. Mr. Anderson looked at me, and I quickly shook my head and waved my hands. I'm a very heavy sleeper. I can fall asleep the moment my head hits the pillow. The noise from next door definitely won't wake me. Please don't worry, young Mr. Ethan, Mr. Lewis smiled gently. I will remind the young miss to be quiet. Thank you. I followed Mr. Lewis upstairs. As we passed one door, I couldn't help but glance at it a couple of times. All the rooms on this floor had silver locks, except for that one, which was pure black. Young Mr. Ethan, if you need anything, just press this button, and a servant will be here immediately, Mr. Lewis said, pointing to a switch on the wall. I nodded. Understood. I'll just rest in my room. You can go about your business. Don't worry about me. I'll come relieve you at dinner. That evening, the three of us had dinner in the dining room. Afterwards, the two elders went to the backyard for a walk, and I tagged along for a bit. The continuous travel was exhausting, and I had spent the afternoon playing with the dog, so my bones felt like they were about to fall apart. After saying goodnight to the elders, I went straight back to my room. The closet was fully stocked with clothes, and even had high-end men's skincare products. I changed into my own pajamas, smelling of fresh soap. Once my nerves relaxed, I fell into a deep sleep in no time. Downstairs, Chloe, wearing a black trench coat and carrying a white paper bag, strode through the door. Mr. Lewis followed behind her. We have a guest. He's in the room next to yours. The master asked that you be quiet so as not to wake him. A boy, a young man. He's a heavy sleeper, so it won't be a problem. A few drops of cold rain clung to her brow, glistening under the light and slightly softening the hostility in her eyes. She casually tossed the bag onto the sofa and shrugged off her coat. A guest? A boy? Her posture was extremely casual, her tone cool and indifferent, with a faint hint of mockery. Would you like some supper? Make a bowl of noodles and bring it upstairs. Hum. Chloe went upstairs with her clothes, punched in the code outside her door, but didn't push it open right away. She glanced at the crack under the door of the next room. Not only a heavy sleeper, but also completely unwary. After pushing the door open, she habitually locked it behind her. Remembering the supper would be delivered soon, she unlocked it again. She tossed her black trench coat onto a low cabinet, turned on the overhead light, and grabbed a towel, heading into the bathroom. I was woken up by a pressing need to pee. My mind was a fog as I squinted, looking for the bathroom, and walked straight into a wall. That woke me up a bit, and I realized this wasn't my room. I rushed out, remembering there was a bathroom around the corner. I caught a glimpse of the lights on downstairs. Do rich people not turn off their lights at night? I didn't have time to ponder it. I groggily fumbled my way in the dark, completely failing to notice that just 2 steps out, the open door behind me was slammed shut by a draft, leaving me in total darkness. I dozed off on the toilet and almost fell over. Shuffling back, I saw a sliver of light coming from a half-open door, so I felt for the handle, went inside, turned off the main light, and collapsed onto the sofa. A screen in the distance was still glowing faintly. I had a vague feeling something was wrong, but I was too tired to get up. In the bathroom, Chloe was tying her bathrobe when she suddenly froze, her sharp eyes darting towards the door. Did the power go out? The thought had just crossed her mind when she cursed herself for being stupid. The bathroom light was still on. She pushed open the glass door just as Mr. Lewis tiptoed in, carrying a wooden tray. Put it here. He carefully set down the bowl and chopsticks. Chloe opened her mouth, about to ask him why he had turned off the light, but Mr. Lewis had already quickly exited, also wondering why the young miss was in the dark. Just as Chloe was about to hit the light switch, a muffled groan came from the sofa. Did the old man get a cat? Chloe frowned at the sofa. The thought of a stray cat dirtying her space made her inexplicably angry. Her dark eyes stared intently at the lump under the blanket. The length and size were definitely not a cat. She raised an eyebrow, her lips pressed into a thin, cold line, and she approached the sofa with light steps. The spacious bedroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, with only the ticking of her watch. She suddenly remembered Mr. Lewis's words. A young man has arrived. She looked down at the sofa area. Only the top of a head was visible from under the blanket, haloed by the faint glow of the screen. We have a guest, staying next door to you. Mr. Lewis's words echoed in her mind like a curse. How could this reckless idiot be sleeping on her sofa? This was even more disgusting than a stray cat. Even if she kicked him out right now, she would absolutely not be sleeping here tonight. The blanket was roughly thrown off, half of it sliding to the floor, the other half bunched up on the edge of the sofa. I was completely exposed to the cold air. Before I could react, a chill hit my skin, and I instinctively curled my arms. Chloe stared down at me, grabbing a pillow to hold in front of her. The familiar scent of soap filled my nose. Get up! Her voice was low and terrifying, filled with immense pressure. Anyone not completely dead would have been startled awake by the commotion. She grabbed my wrist in a death grip and roughly dragged me onto the carpet. Ah! I fell hard onto the plush carpet, my mind still foggy, my messy bangs obscuring my vision. Get out! Her voice was commanding, slightly hoarse from her recent shower. I was instantly wide awake. Chloe? Am I dreaming? I haphazardly pushed my hair out of my eyes. The first thing I saw was a pair of long, straight legs and a silk robe that reached just to her knees. My gaze moved up to her smooth collarbones, which, in the dim, intersecting light, exuded a fatal allure. Droplets of water still clung to her pale skin. I looked up, my eyes wide, and I was absolutely, positively sure it was Chloe. You! I even pinched myself. No matter how dim the light, I would never mistake that face. I gasped, "How did you get in here?" Chloe was also stunned. How was I in her house? The harsh words I had said flashed through her mind, and an indescribable irritation welled up inside her. The old man's guest. She coldly pulled my arm, forcing me to stand up straight. She never got involved in the affairs of the main house. Mr. Lewis had only mentioned it in passing, and she hadn't paid it any mind, completely uninterested in the matter. I was finally wide awake. I looked up at her, at a loss for where to even begin yelling. This was beyond absurd. We had just had a huge fight and broken up, and now we run into each other here. I awkwardly turned my head away, avoiding her intensely aggressive gaze. But Chloe took a step closer, her bare feet silent on the soft carpet. I didn't notice until her presence was right upon me, and I jumped back in fear. What do you want? What do I want? You snuck into my room. Chloe advanced on me step by step. My back hit the edge of a table. How was I supposed to know where I was? As if waking from a dream, I turned to flee, but Chloe grabbed my wrist in a death grip. I struggled for a few moments, only to be pulled fiercely into her arms. I stopped my useless resistance, my shoulders slumping in defeat as we stood locked in a standoff in the darkness. Chloe's thumb pressed hard on my pulse as she called out, "Ethan," then silence. After a moment, her grip loosened slightly. I took the opportunity to pull my hand back, and my elbow seemed to knock over something hot. Immediately, the rich aroma of pork bone broth filled the air. I whipped my head around to look. A porcelain bowl was overturned on the table, noodle soup spilling everywhere. Unexpectedly, a powerful force wrapped around my waist, and I was yanked forward, crashing into that familiar embrace. We used the same scented body wash. Chloe's hand was on my waist, guiding me away from the flowing soup. I glanced and saw that her hand, which was shielding me, was now covered in sticky broth. "What are you standing there for? Go turn on the light." Her voice was ice cold. Our eyes met in the dim light filtering from the bathroom. This hellish reunion was giving both of us a major headache. The overhead light flickered on, and the room was instantly as bright as day. Chloe scanned the room and asked coldly, "Where are the tissues? This is your house. How would I know?" I retorted irritably. Chloe looked up, scrutinizing me. I was wearing simple men's pajamas, my arms stiffly at my sides. The loose pajama pants revealed the lower half of my pale calves. Her gaze was so piercing that I instinctively took 2 steps back. A wicked smile played on Chloe's lips. "One more step back and you'll hit your head. Go get the tissues." She tilted her delicate chin. I resignedly turned and found the tissue box on the cabinet by the door. I pulled one out and handed it to her. "So stingy." She snatched the tissue from me. I was about to grab a few more when she stopped me with a cold voice. She pointed to an empty space on the other side. "Get over there and stand still." "Why should I?" I asked, my face full of suspicion. "You can't stand where you are," she said, her tone so chilling it sent a shiver down my spine. I swallowed nervously, cautiously glancing behind me as I moved to the spot she indicated. My feet went from the cold tile to the soft, plush carpet, and I curled my toes in embarrassment. I looked down, my eyes red. I had been dragged off the sofa so roughly that I hadn't had time to put on shoes. Only now did I realize it, and I quickly found my slippers and put them on. I looked up and saw her getting tissues to wipe her own hands. I looked around the luxurious room. "Are you Mr. Anderson's granddaughter?" Chloe tilted her head and sneered. "You didn't even figure out who lives here, and you dared to just walk in, without even locking the door." It wasn't that I hadn't suspected her identity. The room was so sterile, like a guest room with no signs of life. Even finding tissues was a struggle, as if she were here for the first time too. "Well, I'm sorry for spilling your supper," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Chloe gave a cold reply, her eyes burning into me, as if waiting for my next performance. I bit my lower lip. "The noodles I make are terrible. Is that it?" I looked up at the clock. It was already 3 in the morning. "How about, I make you another bowl of noodles?" I suggested, steeling myself. She said nothing, just strode towards me with her long legs. "What are you doing?" I backed away in fear. She ignored me, went straight to the custom closet, and took out a new set of pajamas. I immediately understood she was going to change and fled the room. Chloe stared at my back, then at the slightly ajar door. She strode over and locked it. She really held a grudge about my bad habit of not closing doors. I fumbled my way into the kitchen and stood there like an idiot, faced with the cold, high-end appliances. I tried to remember the ingredients for the noodles, I thought there was an egg and a tomato. I found an egg and a tomato and stared at the ridiculously expensive pan. I wasn't completely useless in the kitchen, but my experience was limited to making mud pies as a kid. We always had a housekeeper who cooked, and when she wasn't around, I ordered takeout. Saying my noodles were terrible was a compliment. I had only ever learned to cook once at my grandma's with Noah. I sighed in resignation. It was a long shot, but I had to try. I found a glass bowl and prepared to tackle the egg. I copied the technique I'd seen chefs use on TV and cracked it firmly on the rim of the bowl. Ouch! I fumbled to steady the bowl I had almost knocked over, a crushed half shell in my hand, egg white all over my fingers, and shell fragments in the bowl. I despairingly dumped the mess, rinsed the bowl, and was left with nothing but a tragically squashed egg yolk on the cutting board. A soft laugh came from the doorway. I turned around, holding the bowl, to see Chloe in a silk robe, leaning against the kitchen doorframe, her eyes reflecting tiny specks of light as she stared at me. "Did you wash your hands before cracking the egg?" I nodded. "I did." Chloe drew out a long "oh," her eyes full of amusement. "Well then, after you cook down the tomatoes, remember to reduce the sauce a bit." I slammed the bowl down and mimicked her annoying tone. "I can't cook them down and I can't reduce it. Be my guest, you do it yourself." The flour on the cutting board was also my doing from earlier. I shook my head helplessly and turned to go to the living room. "Fine. Do whatever you want." The slight upward lilt at the end of her sentence sounded incredibly arrogant. I had considered trying another egg, but then I thought, forget it. I should have just mixed the shell in for her to eat. Looking at the lone egg in the bowl, I completely gave up. Chloe was sitting on the living room sofa. Hearing my footsteps, she glanced up casually. "Done so soon? You should just order takeout," I said, dejected. As I wiped my hands with a tissue, Chloe immediately stood up, her eyes fixed on the tissue in my hand. "Did you hurt your hand?" I shook my head repeatedly, but she didn't believe me and snatched the tissue away. "What are you doing?" "I'm really not hurt." It was true. My hand was perfectly fine, not even a red mark. Chloe glanced into the kitchen. The tomato was still whole on the cutting board, untouched. She snorted, clearly having seen through my earlier embarrassment. "Gave up after just one egg? The security here is tight. Delivery drivers can't get in." I pursed my lips in embarrassment. After waking up, I was actually a bit hungry. I glanced at her furtively. "How about, we go out to eat?" Chloe raised an eyebrow. "We?" She tilted her head and sighed softly. "All right, I guess. Go upstairs and change first." I had rarely been to New York City before. My parents were always busy with work, so I had only visited a few times. As we were about to leave, Chloe grabbed my arm and led me in a different direction. "I remember we came from that way." Chloe nodded. "Are you really planning to walk?" "It's at least a half-hour walk just to get out of the residential area." I remembered it had taken 10 minutes even by car, so I wisely kept my mouth shut. She led me to the underground garage, which was filled with all kinds of luxury cars. She chose a black convertible sports car. I got into the passenger seat. "This car is pretty cool." Chloe glanced at me as she backed out. "Are you cold?" "No." After leaving the residential area, the car's speed picked up significantly. I knew her car had been confiscated by her family for getting into trouble before, so she was probably itching to drive. The night wind felt great. I took out my phone, recorded a short video, and sent it to the group chat. Chloe caught it out of the corner of her eye, and a slight smile touched her lips. But when she saw Noah's profile picture on the screen, her expression instantly darkened. She had added Noah before too. "Is your phone that interesting?" I thought she was being completely unreasonable. "Why do you care?" She went back to her cold silence. I could tell she was unhappy, but I couldn't be bothered to ask why. The car stopped at a red light, and she was the first to break the silence. "What do you want to eat?" "Up to you. You know this place better after all." In the group chat, Noah sent a picture of a starry night sky. Chloe let out a sour, cold laugh. "He really is your good confidant. You're just sour because you don't have any friends," I retorted sarcastically. "At least better than your friend." Chloe turned to stare at me. "Why the attitude? Your confidant isn't even here." Her tone was so infuriating. I turned my head and decided to just ignore her. The car pulled up to a high-end restaurant and I followed her out. A manager in a uniform came out to greet us. I gave her a questioning look. Chloe walked ahead calmly. "What are you looking at me for?" "This is the old man's business." I rubbed my slightly cold arms and followed her silently. Inside, we sat at a corner table, and a waiter handed us a tablet to order. "The Creekstone Farms cold-smoked steak." The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. I regretted it instantly. That was Chloe's favorite. I quickly changed my order. "Actually, I'll have the house special grilled lamb chops instead." I looked up at her. "What do you want to eat?" A corner of Chloe's mouth lifted. "One Creekstone Farms cold-smoked steak." The restaurant's AC was blasting. I'm naturally sensitive to the cold, and after the windy drive, my arms were covered in goosebumps. Chloe suddenly stood up. "I'll be right back." With just that, she strode away on her long legs. I sat there waiting quietly. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Mason. Just as I finished replying to him, Noah messaged me too. "Are you still out? It's windy at night, stay warm." I quickly typed back, "Just out for a late night snack." The restaurant's AC is too strong. I'm shivering right now. Noah replied quickly, ask the waiter for a shawl. Be careful not to catch a cold. Before long, Chloe returned to the restaurant, carrying an elegant paper bag. Seeing me still staring at my phone, her expression grew even colder. The two of us ate in silence, the atmosphere icy. I took a sip of warm water, not bothering to try and liven things up. Chloe suddenly spoke. So, to be clear, you're the grandson of the old man's sister? I choked on my water and quickly grabbed a napkin to wipe my mouth. My grandpa and my grandma aren't actually blood-related, I explained seriously. Chloe's deep eyes stared at me. Then why did you really come to New York City? I hadn't decided where to go for the summer, and I was worried about my grandma being alone, so I came along to check on things. I tried to make my tone sound as natural as possible. After dinner, as we reached the door and I was about to push it open, Chloe suddenly pulled me back. She took a dark gray men's cashmere shawl out of the paper bag. Without a word, she draped it over my shoulders. I was stunned for a moment. Where did you get this? I just bought it, she said, adjusting the edge of the shawl with one hand. You bought it? Why didn't you say so earlier? I looked up at her, confused. I was just putting it on you anyway. She turned her head away, but the tips of her ears were slightly red. Her awkwardness made me want to laugh. On the way back, Noah sent a voice message which I accidentally played on speaker. Ethan, are you back yet? Remember to drink some hot water when you get back. Noah's voice was a bit hoarse. Chloe's grip on the steering wheel tightened, and the atmosphere in the car instantly dropped. Your confidant is so thoughtful. I could tell from Noah's tone that something was wrong, that he seemed to be in some kind of trouble. I quickly typed to ask him what was going on. Noah only replied, just some family trouble. It's fine. You get some rest. I sighed and didn't press further, knowing his family situation was always complicated. The car came to a smooth stop in front of the villa. We're here, Chloe's cold voice sounded. I put away my phone and got out of the car. The next morning, after washing up, I went downstairs for breakfast. Grandma Grace and Mr. Anderson were both there. Good morning, Mr. Anderson. Good morning, Grandma. Mr. Lewis was about to go call Chloe, but she came downstairs on her own. She pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. Mr. Anderson looked at her with some surprise. His granddaughter was usually so rebellious, but today she was surprisingly well behaved. Mr. Anderson stared at me for a moment and then suddenly asked, did you and Chloe know each other before? My hand holding a spoon paused. Before I could explain, Chloe cut in. We've known each other for 4 years. Mr. Anderson laughed heartily. You're a good kid. Chloe is a stubborn girl. You must have put up with a lot. I bit my lip, not knowing how to respond. But Chloe turned to look at me and, for the first time ever, said, I'll take good care of Ethan.